The story begins with a slap. A guy named Damien, who is an archduke, hit his fiancée Marine because of another girl, and he is in love with that girl instead of his fiancée. But now Orion don't care about anything. The only emotion she is left with is neither love, hatred, nor jealousy, but only annoyance. 4 years ago, she was fallen in love with Cain at first sight, and it was so deep that every day she chased after him like a fool. But Cain is not interested in her. In a rainy day she is following him. Cain said, "Are you not tired? Even on a bad day like this, you still choose to follow me." She replied, "Sorry, if this makes him uncomfortable." But she wanted to see him. He threw the umbrella in the air from her hand. But suddenly Damien fall on the ground due to an illness that had been tormenting him for a long time. She managed to catch his attention by curing the illness. She is from the Sersha family, which is protected by the royal family. Those who are born in that family inherit the ability of healing. Upon witnessing her abilities, Damien immediately made a marriage proposal to her. She was very happy after hearing this, that he want to marry her. But deep inside she knew that this engagement is happening because Cain is seeing his benefit in this. But she thought he would look at her if she tried hard. But he is postponing the wedding every time, by making an excuse of his disease. And it was the only time she was able to touch his body. But one day he arrived with a woman named Lillian. She was in his arms, and he shouting for Orion, because of her healing abilities. And asking her to treat this woman, Orion treated her, and after taking some rest Lillian woke up, and Damien was very happy after seeing this. And after some days Orion was going to her room, but someone is there already. After opening the gate she found her fiancé Damien, and Lillian was doing something indecent. That was when Orion lost all of her feelings towards Damien, and thought that 3 years of hard work turned out to be a waste of time. But deep down she knows that this going to happen, but she denied it only because she loved the man in front of her. But now she made up his mind that if this is the way things are going to be, then let's end this engagement. Damien is very shocked and angry at the same time. She threw her ring on the ground and starting to move on the other direction, he grabbed her hand and asked, "What does she mean about breaking the engagement? Why are you acting like this all of a sudden?" She replied that she is no longer the foolish woman of the house Sersha, and she is no more in love with him, so let's end this. And she started to move away from him. But Damien can't accept that he was rejected by a girl. So he pierced her heart by his sword, and said that he expected her to be an obedient girl, who would simply listen to what he say. And he can't allow others to use her healing abilities without his consent. At the last breath, she was regretting, why did she fall in love with him so foolishly? Someone who is even lower than trash. She wished that, if she could go back in time, she would never repeat that mistake again, and she will do the same to him. And then she woke up in her father's home. She is in shock because her father was passed away 2 years ago. He is wishing her happy birthday, and he was worried because she was sleeping as she is dead. She asked her father birthday, "What do you mean, father?" He replied with a laugh that, "You are still not full awake yet, come on get up." She is thinking then 'tis means all of that horrible memories are just dream. She asked her father that, "What year is it now?" He replied, "Aren't we in the 829th year of the imperial calendar?" Then she realized she came back to her birthday 4 years ago. She asked, "Is he really her father?" He replied, "Of course this is your father Orion." Her father was very kind and a gentle man. He is a father who always listens to what his only daughter has to say. He gave her many gifts before going to war, and then he disappeared like her mother. But now he is in front of him. She hugged him and started crying loudly. She is very happy that he is alive, and it is not a dream. Her father thought that maybe she saw a nightmare. He asked the chef to prepare food according to her preferences, so get ready and come to dining table. She thought, this is a chance she can never miss. And one good thing is that Damien now have a disease that even famous doctors can't cure. And she is the only one who can treat him. And she thought, perhaps she can use this opportunity against that bastard, and lead him to his demise. But if she goes without any preparation, he will surely destroy her first. So, first of all, she needs someone who can protect her family and fight for him. There is only a single person who is stronger than the man in this empire. A man who came from slavery but caught the attention of the crown prince, and became the leader of the knights in the empire. He was referred as the god of war. Crown Prince closest aide, God bless beauty, a genius swordsman who only appears once every 1,000 years. Cassadian is the person who can go to the battlefield and come back alive in one piece. In the entire continent, Cassidan is the only capable person. Currently Cassidan is a slave and a gladiator. But after a year, the crown prince will know him, and he will brought into the imperial family. So she need to find him before crown prince, and take care of him and feed him, and train him well, so that he becomes the sword that protects her family. For the sake of her father and himself, she is ready to exploit others. Next they are eating food, and there is too much food. Her asked her if she needs anything. He bought her some dresses and jewelry. She replied with a smile that she wants a younger brother. After hearing this, her father puked all of the food back cup. He is in a panic situation, and said, "Are you asking me to get married again?" She replied no, she is thinking of adopting a little brother, and asked if he trusts her. Her father replied in a calm state that she is the only one he trusts. But this sudden desire for younger brother is quite confusing. In the empire, whenever war breaks out, one man from each family must go to the battlefield, and who disobey this rule, they have to lose their property, title, and it could even result in the death penalty. So, she is thinking about Cassidan. They just have to keep him by her side, and treat him well, and whenever there is war, he can go and place her father as her younger brother. And Cassidan is the only person capable of defeating Damien, because in her past memories, he was the youngest warrior commander of the knights. Her father said that his only family is Orion. Then she starts to explain that it maybe sounds strange, but just think about it. If others came to know about their healing abilities, it would be dangerous for them. However, if they brought a strong person to their family, they can avoid any unfortunate events that might happen. So please, I will bring a child who is strong and obedient enough to protect family. And I'm sure you will love him too. He agreed to her request and said, "There must be a deep meaning behind your decision, because since childhood you've been smarter than anyone. So whoever it is, bring him to see Dad first. But remember, you need to bring a suitable man for us." Next, her servant Sasha is preparing her for her departure, and asked, "Today is the lady's birthday, so where do you plan on going?" She replied with smiling face there is something she needed to do. After some time she arrived at wrestling arena. But fortunately there is no one from the royal family. It is a good opportunity to take the initiative before the crown prince does. Next they asked for the seat with the best view, and gave some gold coins for that, and she apologized for cutting in line. In return, please let them pay for everyone else. The counterman was very shocked after hearing this. In mind she thought about having plenty money, because they are the healers of imperial family. Therefore the house Saoirse received protection and became wealthy for generations, and only the imperial family knows about their healing ability. The counterman welcoming her and clearing the way for them. In audience some people are talking about a guy with shiny silver hair, and he is very skilled at fighting. After some time she saw him, and Cassidan moved his head upward. Then they both are started to seeing each other. Orion was shocked after seeing Cassidan, because he is the prettiest man she have ever seen. Well, the status of being a slave fighter has nothing to do with appearance. Everyone in arena is shouting to get the match start. Next the referee is about to start the game. But before that he explained the game rules. They threw some weapons on the ground, and said that there is only one rule: just kill your opponents and survive until the end. Orion is thinking, it turns out that they don't see slaves as a human. Slavery is just a pastime. If they become useless, they will be thrown away. The match began, and every slave started to kill each other. But Cassidan stayed still. Everyone in the crowd was very happy by seeing them killing each other. Suddenly one of the slave moves towards Cassidan to kill him, but Cassidan dodged that attack, and killed that slave in one hit, and other remaining slaves are also dead, and the only person alive is Cassidon. Everyone is cheering for him, but Orion was sad after seeing that. The people in the arena enjoyed watching them killing each other. Next, referee announced him as a winner of this match, and said that they are giving a chance to the guest with the highest payment to spend a hot night with him. Orion was in shock after hearing this, but on the other hand everyone started to bid, and the highest bid was of 500,000 gold coins by an old man, but Orion bid 500 million gold coins for him, but not for a night. That is the price of buying all his life, and asked if 500 million is enough or not. Everyone is surprised. After hearing such high price for a slave, referee replied and he said yes, that's more than enough. Then Cassidon left with her, and she is telling him something. However, Cassidon started to remove his clothes. She asked him, "What are you doing right now?" He replied that didn't she buy him to do this, so he started to serve him. She said that she didn't bring him so that he could serve her at night. He is confused after hearing this, and asked what is she talking about, and why did you buy me then? She said because she can't pretend not to see those, which was begging for help, and she took his hand and said, no matter how strong he is, he still have scars on his hands. And she was going to him and let him live freely. But if she do that, then he will be dragged to the arena again. Next she healed his scars from his hand. He asked, what is this? She replied, this is secret magic which is passed down in her family. He asked, Master, why would you use such a precious thing for him? With a smile she said, no matter how precious it is, it can't be compared to human life. He said that he killed a lot of people. She is comforting him that it was just your reluctant choice for you to live. It's not you killed people because you want to. But how did you end up as a slave fighter? What about your family? He said he have no family. They all died a long time ago. He wandered everywhere all alone, and in the end eventually drifted to the arena. Next he asked his master a question. What kind of person you are, master? She replied with a smile, that she is Circe's only daughter. After she was born her mother died. She asked him his age. He was 18 years old, and Orion is 2 years older than him. Then after some time she asked, how would you feel if you become my younger brother? Cassidon didn't understand what is she trying to say by this. She said like, throw away your slave status and become a member of the Earl's house. If that's the case, then you won't have to live such a tragic life anymore. You don't have to kill anyone and no one will disrespect you again. So, will you be my family, Cassidon? He agreed with it by saying, if that's what master wants, then yes. Then they introduce each other again, and he accepts her as a sister by saying, thank you sister, you are truly a warm-hearted person. Orion thought that it is strange he accepted it very quickly. Could it be because he has the ability to adapt to new environments quickly? But in the end, the fact that she let Cassidon come to this family is only to protect her family. What he thinks is not important to her. He is just her sword and shield. Next she introduced him to her father, but he was very angry after hearing that he is a slave. Even if she let him be her bodyguard, it's crazy enough. But her brother, she apologized for doing this, but she explained him what is she thinking. If one day war broke out, isn't the only man in our family who his father will have to go to war. But if there is another man in our house, it can be avoided, and he was someone with outstanding ability, so he can return safely from the battlefield. He asked, so, this the reason you suddenly came up with a younger brother idea? He apologized for being angry. Now he understood what she is trying to do, but he needs some time alone to settle his thoughts on this matter. She came out from his father's room. She saw outside there as the sun turns red. At the same time when sun is red she was killed by Damien, and it always remind her about not forgetting who killed her. That's why she can't lose Cassidon, because he is the only one who is going to be stronger than him. Next Cassidon took a bath, and Orion asked to bring some food up to this room for them. Next, after wearing clothes, Cassidon said that he is definitely going to prove his worth. She asked him if he need anything else, so he asked her for a sword. Because he is living with a sword for a long time, it makes him comfortable, and a sword is enough for him. He don't need anything else. Whatever is happening to him is already like a dream to him. But he have something to tell her. Looks like he already like her. From the first time he met her, he couldn't take his eyes off from her. So, if it's a dream he never want to wake up, she thought it's only been a day since they met. But he already knows how to tease others with his tongue. As expected, there's a reason why he expected all of this so easily. She said there is no that she is going to leave him, and it would be better to just go along with him, and I will treat you tenderly and warmly, more than anyone. So just take a rest today and don't worry. Her room is next door, so you can come whenever you want. Orion was reading a book about herbs and potions that grow only in northern region, but without a doctor, it will be very difficult to find them. 19 years earlier, around this time last year, the emperor's illness was completely cured. As a result, her family became even richer. And everyone in the nobility whispers to each other that her family is hiding a mineral mine. And when she was 20 years old, at the crown's prince's birthday party, she met Damien, and after that all of her family's huge money flows into Damien's hands, and finally she had to suffer a tragic end. And currently it's time, exactly 1 month before the crown prince's birthday party. So, if the enemy is Damien, then she have to learn more things. Baku's the northern region was Damien's territory. That's why she can't lose even the smallest piece of information. Next her door was knocked. It was Kassadin, and he wanted to say something to her. She thought at this late time in the night, she gave him permission to enter. He said even though he know it's not allowed to come here late at night like this, but since he couldn't sleep, and he remembers that earlier she said he can come whenever he want, she said no problem, she is just reading a book, so, just anywhere you felt comfortable. He asked which book you are reading. She said it is the Medicines of the North, and she said it turns out, you know how to read. Reading and writing are the rituals of the nobility, so she had to memorize a lot of things in order to survive. But in the empire, slaves didn't have the opportunity to read, not even the chance to learn or read, and the more knowledgeable the slave, then harder it gets to manage them. But he reads it so naturally, so she guessed there is no need to ask him, because it looks like he can't trust her yet. She said you must have been very tired, so just take a rest, and nothing bad is going to happen with you, he said. He can't sleep because he was restless, but if you are okay then, can we sleep together? She thought maybe he is testing her. Then she just have to prove to him that she don't worry of him, that's all, and said if that's what you want, so be it, come here. It seems that because you changed your sleeping place, you felt uneasy. He replied that might be a case, but mostly every night the people he killed appeared in his dreams. They crawled to his side with blood all over their bodies and whispered, why did he kill them? She comforted him by saying it is not his fault. You only did this to survive in this world. At least you feel sorry for the dead, right? He said however killing is still killing. She said that it wasn't called slaughter. It was just an action of you using a sword to help you protect yourself. This is the first time in Orion's life about hearing something like this, and she wants to know what kind of life he lived until now. He said with a bright smile that there's only one person in the arena, and that's you, the only one who shines so brightly. So seeing you up close like this makes his day even more brighter, so thank you for bringing me here. After some time, she is acting of being in sleep, but she felt eyes on herself. Kassadin was watching him consistently. He is moving his hand in Orion's hair, and said I hope you have a nice dream, sister. But it turns out he was a liar. Just like how she pretended to be a gentle person, same goes for Kassadin. Since he had encountered so many dangerous things in the arena, it was only natural for him to act like that. And she also don't expect him to believe her in the first place. She is just waiting for him to naturally become part of her family, and she is definitely going to meet Damien at the birthday party. Until then she have Tio officially put Kassadin in her family and tame him. But she don't know anything about Kassadin, even if she tried to search through the memories of her past life. But at that time he was just quietly standing behind him, so she needs to investigate Kassadin, and after that he can do anything she will put in his hand. Next morning Sasha came to tell Orion that his father asked her to see Orion. she said okay, I will get there. But where is Cassidon? He is not in his room. Next Orion goes to meet her father, and saw that Cassidon is covered all over in blood. Her father gave him a task to complete. Only after he completes several tests, he allowed to be the young master. So the first task he gave his to bring a herb from northern region. He checked it, and there's no mistake. This smell is really the smell of the northern shank that he talked about. Orion said, isn't it a herb that grows only in caves on the steep cliffs of the west? And there were rumors that those caves were inhabited by monsters. Orion asked, why would Cassidon found this thing back? Her father replied that he was thinking all night about Cassidon, and finally came up with decision that if he passes his few challenges, he can join our family. So, he passed the first challenge. Orion said that she thinks there's no need for the next challenge. Bacchus, no matter what challenge you give Cassidon, he is going to pass them, because he also brought the herbs back, and he proven his worth enough. So please allow Cassidon to enter this family as her younger brother. He will surely become the pride of our family. And she was the one who brought Cassidon back, and if only because of his status as a slave, you wouldn't accept him, then, please also drive me out of this family. Both of them are in shock. After hearing that, he asked, why do you value a slave so much? She replied that humans are not just faces. You like to drink herbal tea, but the place where the herbs are grown is the slave farm. And most of the slaves are just nobles from other countries. They were trampled by the empire and stripped of their titles overnight. They don't only have to leave all of their property behind, but all had to live like slaves. So the title is just a useless thing. And Cassidon is just a human just like us. So please allow him to enter our family. Next, after hearing all of this, he allowed him to join their family. And she asked Cassidon to help her in the future, and Cassidon said that he also hoped her to take care of her too, and father also. After hearing father from Cassidon's mouth, Orion father feels uneasy. But in the end he accepted him. After some time, Cassidon is taking a bath, and thinking about earlier, that what Orion said about him to her father, about if he don't accept him then she also wants to drive out from the family. And thought that his sister is truly a strange woman. And thinking about his sister, when they were both in the bad, and he knows that she was clearly up that time, but because of him she had turned into a grumpy kid. But whatever the case, he just wants to take advantage of her, and for that he is ready to do whatever it takes. Next day Orion goes to market, to buy a sword for Cassidon. Shop owner welcomes her, and she is thinking that, since Cassidon said he likes swords, so she will buy one as an anniversary gift to mark him becoming a member of this family. She found one sword which seems convenient to hold, and looks very convenient to use too, and the shopkeeper tells her about the origin of the sword, and there is so many to say about it. This sword is used to be the sword that was used by the late Prince of Kingdom Hiron, which was perished. She asked how could such a good sword be unsold and covered in dust like this. She bought the sword because it seems to fit Cassidon quite well. Next she returned to home, and entered into Cassidon's room, and he is drying himself after taking a bath. She said that she was a bit worried because she didn't hear his voice. He apologized to her for not replying earlier. Next she gave him the box. He asked what is this and opened it, and found a sword. But after seeing the sword he asked with a serious face, where did she found it? She replied she bought it from the nearby store, and thought that it might suit him. He asked where is the sheath of this sword. Apparently there is a cover that comes with it. She asked that how did he know that. He said normally daggers like this would come with their sheaths. Furthermore, it was strange that a sword as good as this had no outer sheath. After hearing all of this she said according to the shop owner, its sheath had been lost for a long time. And the shop owner also said that this sword was once used by a perished kingdom's prince. And it's Kingdom Hiron that he mentioned. She asked how about if she gets someone to make a sheath for it. But he said that she don't need to do that. He used to try all of the swords back then at the arena, so he think it's fine if a sword has no sheath. Moreover, isn't this as a gift from her, so he already like this as it is. She once again welcomed him to be a part of her family. He said thank you and that this is too much for him. And meeting her is the luckiest thing he have experienced in his whole life. If it weren't for her, he would probably still be in the arena right now. And he don't want to forget this warmth. She was like an angel to him who fell from the sky. She again thanked him for becoming a part of her family, but normally sister and brother won't be having such a tight hug. He said seems like he have made a mistake. She comforted him by saying, if he feel tired, he can rely on her whenever he want. But she knows that he was doing acting of becoming a good brother, and all he is telling her was lies, and thinking in his eyes how stupid she is. But she want to protect her family, and Cassidy is the only one who can protect them, so she decided to continue the act of a gentle and stupid girl for him, and she said if he can't sleep at night, she will sing him a lullaby, and during the day. Let's go to the garden full of flowers, so, in the coming days you will only going to live in happiness. And she is going to fill his life with colors. After that he asked, if that's the case then can he come to her room again? She said with smile, of course he can. She will hold his hand until he fell asleep. Cassidy asked, but that's not what a normal sister and brother does? Orion said if that's the case then let's make an unusual pair of siblings. So, what will be the end of this strange sister-brother relationship? In the night he asked why would she bring him here in this family, if she knew that she could be kicked out. Orion replied that she promised to him that she will never throwing him away. That's why she did that, and the other reason is that she don't want to see the scene where he was thrown away, and you are crying. And no matter how, Orion want him to be happy. After hearing that Cassidy said he is very happy, so just sleep tight sister. Orion was again doing an acting of falling asleep, and he continuously stared towards her. After some time she fall asleep, and saw a dream in which Damien appeared and killed her. And next she woke up in the morning. Her mood is really bad after seeing that dream, and Cassidy had left at midnight, but why is there a book missing? Next Sasha came to the room and told her that she did some investigation, and found something strange. That maybe Cassidy is not originally a slave. Shockingly she asked, what do you mean explain this properly? Sasha said she met a merchant who told her that the one who was said to have owned Cassidy for the first time a few years ago, he found Cassidy lying on the solitary street wearing expensive clothes. So they thought he came from a prestigious family. And his first impression was very nervous when they first met him. And it doesn't seem like a lie. Orion also thought that she is right, because Cassidy know how to read and write, and literature is not something that can be forced to learn. Unless you were born noble from the beginning. So she thought maybe his family was dead, and he is all alone now, so she must be kinder to him from now on. She thanked Sasha and gave her a necklace as a present, but she declined the present, and said that she didn't do it to get something in return. And it's enough for her that she was able to help her. Orion thanked Sasha for her kindness, and said you must be tired Sasha, so just take a break for today, and she gave her the full accessories box. She was not accepting that box in the starting, but at the end she accepted it. Orion thought that Sasha was the first one who noticed some change in her behavior, and it would be strange not to change after coming back alive from the edge of death. Sasha is nice, and thought if there was even one decent maid in Damien's house, would the situation change a little? But she knows that would not be the case, because he didn't even listen to her. Then what could a maid even do? She remembered that she was just like a trapped bird inside a cage, and Damien would whisper all kinds of sweet words only when she treated him. And all the other time he ignored her, so she is thinking what kind of expression should she show on the Crown Prince's birthday, when she meet Damien? After some time Cassidy and Orion are walking into garden, and Cassidy said it's very beautiful, especially the blue flowers that resemble his sister, because unlike red roses, blue roses are extremely rare. That's why blue flowers are called impossible in the language of flowers. It's the first time he have seen them in person. He said they are so beautiful just like you my sister. Orion said even if the flower is rare, what's the point if you are going to lose it? From the moment it withers, it becomes a problem for the gardener only. He said he didn't mean it in that way. Orion replied, yes, I know that. I just wanted to tell you. Comparing people to flowers can make them feel insulted. It all depends on the listener. He said he will keep that in mind. Orion asked Cassidy if he knows about a book that was missing from her bookshelf. He asked, a missing book? She said while looking sharply towards him that maybe someone has stolen it. He replied, well, it wasn't even a very important book. She asked, do you remember? It was the book she last read. Its title was about northern herbs. Cassidy said, if you allow me, I can help you find it. She said that you're the only one who can sneak into my room while I'm asleep. She is thinking he comes to my room every night and whisper lies with that bright smile. And the words he spoke when he saw the blue rose, they were all lies. And he has been pretending from the moment they first met. But she could not understand why he was so devoted to the crown prince. In her past memories? After that few days passes, Orion's father was recorded him officially. And her father told him that, not to tell anyone that he was once a slave. Everyone in the crowd was looking at him. He is looking so handsome to everyone. Everyone thought that he must belong to a noble family. And is it a human face or a work of art? Orion thought that no one would even believe that he was once a slave. She asked him what was his father like? He said his father was very kind and his mother was stronger than anyone else. They were good people, and he don't have any siblings. And he was truly happy to be able to go out with his sister like this. She asked, is there anything he want or need? After holding her hand, he said, all he wants is to stay happy with his sister like this. After some time, she told him about a crown prince birthday banquet, which is just a week ahead. And their family is invited every year for any event held at the imperial palace. This time, her father said he can't attend because of his palace duties. So, if you decide to go instead of him. By holding her in his hands, he said, please take me with you too, sister. And if it's the imperial palace, how will many other people attend? But he feared that someone else might steal his sister away from him. She comforted him by saying she would take him with her no matter what, and don't worry, no one else will steal her away. Everyone from the crowd is watching them with blushy faces. And he said, sister, you don't realize how charming you are. She said she will do whatever he want, unless he keep testing him. Cassidy surprisingly said he didn't testing her. It's the first time he have felt this warmth, and he did all of this because he loves her. And I didn't tested you even once, she asked. Then why did you steal the book? The book that disappeared 3 weeks ago. She knows that he stole that book and returned it to her bookshelf. And you are the only one entered into my room that night. So, it's clear that it was you? At that time she thought he had his reasons behind this, and what matters to her isn't that he stole the book. But he lied to her. He asked if she knew everything from the beginning. Why didn't she punish him for that? She said with a gentle smile, because you're a precious member of our family. He held her hand very tightly and said, for him, sister is like a ray of light that saved him. So, he is not going to lie to her again. She said she can lend him any book he want. And also suggest something useful for him. He thanked her for that and asked. He was wondering what kind of book his sister was reading. If he knew this would happen, he would have told her the truth from the beginning. She said, choose what you want from this market, and tell her everything he needs. He said there is one thing he want. She asked, what is it? He said it was you, my sister. For a while after that day, Cassidy didn't come to her room at night. 2 days before the crown prince's birthday, she was reading an article about Damien, in that he won the 829 imperial tournament. She can't believe that he won the tournament with that body. The beast remains the beast. Who from the depths would believe he's ailing from heart disease? Earlier, she was chasing him for a year, and she only noticed his disease when he collapsed in front of her. Suddenly she noticed someone is standing at the door. I was Cassidy. She asked him, why haven't you been coming here at night lately? He asked with a smile, were you waiting for me? She said yes. He was glad after hearing that she was waiting for him. Earlier you said you can't sleep. Is your worry gone now? He said yes, thanks to his sister, but he still preferred to be with his sister. She said if others find out that you are coming to my room at night, you will get into trouble. Cassidy replied that's why he come back before dawn. But Orion said if you don't want me to get into trouble, don't come here like this at night. He said with flirty sound that it's good to see my sister during the day, but he also loves seeing her at night. It's always nice to see her reflection in the faint moonlight. And your blue eyes that look like a calm lake. When I look into your deep violet eyes, I also think a lot. Especially when you're frowning and staring into space. It makes him wonder what she is thinking, so, all I can think about is you, my sister. She said she saw someone leaving the palace in the middle of the night a few days ago. And it was you. What are you doing at that time? He said he just needed some fresh air. She knows that he was lying because Sasha told her that he didn't return before dawn. But she said to him that if you say so, then it must be true. After that night of lies, morning finally came. Next day everyone is in hurry for the preparation of Crown Prince's birthday. All the maids are preparing Orion for the birthday party, and all the maids are very happy, because she is looking extremely beautiful. And they said, certainly, Our Lady is the main character of today's banquet. Everyone will envy the person you dance with. But she said it seems that the main character of the day will be Cassidy. He said for a moment he thought he saw an angel. Then they both left for the banquet. He sit aside of Orion. She said the other seat is empty, Cassidy, and you can let go of my hand now. Cassidy said he want to sit like this. My sister's scent is very pleasant. I hope time stops here. If others in the Imperial Palace look at you, I will feel extremely uncomfortable. She asked, why do you keep doing this, little brother? She really wondered why he continued to lie to her. But she hopes that one day he will tell her. Would that be too much to ask? He asked Orion, you don't believe me? She said that when he lie, one corner of his mouth lifts slightly, and your right eyelash trembles gently. You are really bad at lying. He asked, what kind of person are you, my sister? Next they arrived at the Imperial Palace. It is a place where Orion is used to frequent when she was little. Because of their healing abilities, whenever there is need they arrange the path in that way, so that they can quickly come to the aid of the imperial family when necessary. And because of that there was a strange and mistaken belief that she was a candidate to marry the crown prince. When they are coming down from the chariot, Cassidy was looking at her. She asked him if he have something to say, or is it just that my sister looks very beautiful? You are complimenting a lot today, but you are beautiful too. He said that he should be grateful if she said he was wonderful. After some time at the entrance she shows invitation card to the Imperial Guard. He asked, who is accompanying you? Everyone is looking at Cassidy, and wondering who is this gentleman, and he is really handsome. She replied he is her younger brother Cassidy. The guard confirmed their invitation card. They both entered into the Imperial Palace, the glass room. It still remains same as Orion remembers it. And last time Damien came late for the dinner, there is no difference from the past. She was thinking that the only change here from the past is, this time she came with Cassidy. Next the beautiful lady approached Orion, and said, Madam Circia. It's been a long time. Orion said she is happy to see her again. That lady said it's an honor for me that you remember me. Orion said of course she remembers her. Her name is Evelyn Kristen. She is the daughter of Count Kristen, who earned his fortune through diamond mining. And because of them hundreds of slaves died in the mines. Because Orion possessed jewels that they don't have. The lady asked who is the gentleman next to her. Cassidy introduced himself to them, and said pleased to meet you, my name is Cassidy. She asked with a blushy face, how can your voice be so beautiful? Orion said that he is her younger brother. After hearing that he is her younger brother, all of them approached like a pack of dogs chasing their prey. They thought that she was the only daughter of Count Circia. They asked then what is the reason for not revealing himself. Is it because the young lady wanted to monopolize her handsome younger brother? Orion was thinking that she don't want to waste her mental energy on such a conversation. The lady asked, so how can someone as beautiful as him hide? They asked Cassidon if he have a girlfriend. All of them are attracted toward him. He replied that he don't have any girlfriend, but he have someone in his heart. All of them are shockingly watching him. One of the girl asks, "Who might that be?" He replied with a bright smile that, on the first day when they met, she was wearing a beautiful light blue dress with bare shoulders. And she was wearing a necklace of blue sapphires around her neck. She was looking so beautiful that avoiding her gaze made him feel guilty. That's why he couldn't take his eyes off her. There is no doubt that his heart belongs entirely to her. Someone from the crowd asked what is her name. But before he tells the name of that girl, the crown prince entered into the hall. Everyone is greeting the crown prince. His name is Leon de Craspel. He thanked everyone for attending the ceremony despite their busy schedules. Orion was thinking that originally, Cassidon was supposed to stand behind the crown prince as his closest aides. But for her, it was the best choice to protect her family. Crown Prince said today, "Let's forget about hard work and have fun." Everyone congratulated Crown Prince and said they hope His Highness's future will be filled with glory. But next Orion was looking at Cassidon, and he was smiling very weirdly. She was thinking why he is smiling like that. Suddenly Crown Prince drops his glass of wine on the ground and started coughing and fall on the ground. The Imperial Guard asking who did this and shouting it's poison, someone must have poisoned his drink. Some women are also fainted after seeing that scene. Erin was shockingly thinking that in her previous life, there was no fall of the prince. Originally the banquet lasted until the late at night. And Damien was also late. The only difference from that time was that this time Cassidon was with her. And he was smiling after Crown Prince fell on the ground. She is thinking that it was Cassidon who did that, but why did Cassidon do that? Because Cassidon, who is in her previous life favored the Crown Prince over everyone else. She was thinking about her previous conversation with the sword shopkeeper. He told her that this sword may be used by Crown Prince of the extinct Kingdom of Highland. The Kingdom of Highland, which has been completely wiped out of the map. If he was the prince of that kingdom, then that explains his action. But in her previous life memories, he was closer to the prince. For at least 3 years. If her predictions are correct, then he wants revenge. She asked him that it was you, the Crown Prince of the Kingdom of Highland. After hearing all of this, Cassidon looked at her with a very serious look. He asked her, "What are you trying to say?" The Imperial Guards announced that the attendees here cannot leave until the interrogation is over. The Emperor issued a decree indicating that possibility of a comet in the banquet hall. And anyone who exhibits suspicious behavior or attempts to leave is immediately considered guilty. The pupil from the crowd asked, "Are you saying one of us is guilty? How dare someone commit such an act against the Emperor's heir? I swear on my rank and title that I am not guilty." But the guard said, "If an interrogation is conducted, the truth will be revealed. If you are not guilty, then why are you fearing? But they keep saying it's not me, it's not me." On the other hand, Cassidon was trembling not from fear, but from anger towards Orion. He was looking like a beast at that time. She comforted him and said, "It's all right, Cassidon. But don't do something like this again in the future. She is saying this for his own good," and said that she will protect him from any danger. But suddenly a door opens, and an Imperial Guard asked Lady Circia, "His Majesty is requesting your presence." Everyone in the crowd started gossiping about it, and said it seems that the rumors about the Crown Prince will spread once again. Or Mary Lady Circia was right. Cassidon was thinking why they asked for Orion presence. She entered into the room and said greetings to the son of the Empire. The Empire rushed toward Miss Circia and asked, "Please hurry and treat my son." She replied, "Yes, I understand, Your Majesty." Next, she removed her gloves and started treating him, and said he looks pale. It seems that the poison has indeed spread throughout his body. The poison had no smell, no taste. She started focusing on his veins, and sensed that the poison has attached itself to the bloodstream throughout the body. And it is a highly toxic, fast-acting, colorless and odorless poison. And then she realized that it is a poisonous plant that only grows in the northern regions. And it was written on the book stolen by Cassidon, which contains a recipe that combines pro powder, aiming to neutralize the whole order of the toxins. If she had been a little late, his condition would have ended in bed for the rest of his life. And it is a deadly poison. And she was thinking that Cassidon was truly mad. Next she opened the button off the crown prince's clothes, and started treating him. After some time, she said, "Everything is fine, your majesty." She had completely removed the traces of the poison. He thanked her, and said, "Thanks to your power, the poison has been eliminated. I will especially grateful to you, and I am willing to fulfill any request you may have with just a word." She declined that offer, and said, "There is no need. Your majesty, I have done what I should have done." The emperor was thinking, who can do this on the birthday event? But even if he don't know who they are, they must be clearly insane and ready to die. Orion was thinking that she was fortunate to be the one treating him, and said that she also learned about the components of the poison that spread in his body, your majesty. And thinking that the emperor's trust in her will work on her favor, and she have to use that trust to save Cassidon. The emperor asked what was it? She said she apologized for informing him, but it was a hemlock plant, a poisonous plant that only grows in the northern regions. She said it because she knows that the younger brother of the emperor, who was the ruler of the northern regions, he left his only son Damien behind when he departed this world. He asked, "Did you just mention the northern region?" She said yes, and hemlock is highly toxic and its smell can be easily detected. However, when mixed with pearl powder, the smell is completely eliminated. After saying this, she was thinking that a little doubt is enough. Although Damien's father was not interested in the throne, he was different. She was thinking that although the crown prince allowed Damien to reach this extent, he never looked at him in the face. And Damien is more qualified than anyone else to represent a threat to the throne. And ever since the majesty had become the emperor, he loved his son dearly, so, even if he escaped the suspicion of poisoning, it will be difficult to avoid what happened to the crown prince. Next, Orion said that she had finished her work, so she will take her leave. The emperor said that he would like to make a request for the young lady. She said yes, it's an honor for her. He said, "Please stay until my son fully recovers." And he said that it is impossible to keep the nobles in the hole for a longer period. She was thinking with a relaxed face that Cassidon is no longer a suspect, and said, "I will do what His Majesty deems appropriate." He left his son in her care, and said thank you very much for the help. After all of this, she was thinking that His Majesty don't trust her too much, and she don't think that they really see her as a candidate for the crown prince. Then she looked at crown prince, and thought that he still hasn't woken up. And what is Cassidon doing now? She hoped that no other incident occurs. Next she started closing the button off the crown prince's shirt with a blushy face. And then he woke up, and asked, "Who are you? What are you doing here? And how dare you touch my body?" She replied that she is Lady Orion Circia, and she was the one who healed him from the poison that spreaded in his body. If it took them longer, it would have been a big problem. He said, "Treatment?" She said yes. "Didn't you hear from His Majesty?" He said yes, he remembered hearing something like this before, that the Sarika family was the only family that possessed healing abilities in the empire. And the best healer of all was their son, the Count. And you must be his daughter. So, can you demonstrate this great skill to me? She replied, "That would not be possible. Because you have already been healed, and there is no one else here in need of healing." So, she asked to leave, but suddenly Crown Prince started coughing and felt sick. She immediately started to treat him again and said, "It seems that the poison has been completely eliminated. There is nothing wrong. Your heart is also stable. You are fine," he said. "It seems you truly are a healer." She was thinking that she know he's someone superior to her. But do you like to test others, because you were raised in the imperial family? She said she's done with her work, so she is leaving. But he grabbed her hand and stopped her. And said that he's a little worried, so can you stay with me a little longer? She said she can contact someone else. And then after hearing this, he said unbelievable, because till now other people feel excited to talk to him, but she is different than other. Instead, she seemed annoyed by it. She was thinking that in her previous life, she never spoke to him. So she didn't know that he had this kind of personality. And then she said that not everyone is the same. She wants to leave the room quickly, so she have to come up with an excuse. She said that maybe the other girls are eager to talk to you, but not all the ladies you will meet in the future will have these aspirations. He asked, "Why do you think so?" She replied that's because people have different inclinations. He said that he wanted to ask her a question. "What do you think of me?" He came closer to her. She said that she believed His Highness is the Crown Prince. After hearing this, he started laughing. He said your name was Orion, right? So if you need a healer, I have to rely on your resistance. She said yes. He said now you can leave and see you soon, Lady Orion. She was thinking that can't she just hit him? What does he mean by see you soon? She hoped that he doesn't find her again. After that, she entered into the hallway and asked one of the maid, "What happened to the guest?" She replied, "His Majesty dismissed the other guest." After hearing that, she is in relief. And thinking that now Cassidy will be safe. She was searching for him everywhere. And thinking he's late. But suddenly she saw he was talking to someone else. Then she goes toward him and asks, "Have you waited so long?" He replied, "Not at all." She was thinking that this pretty face of my little brother, who would dare to get him into trouble, and even thought that he was the one who caused all of the commotion. Then she looked toward the person to whom Cassidy is talking. And he's none other than Damien. She knows that sound very well. She was trembling from fear and anger, and remembered her past life in a second. After that, Damien introduced himself to her, and said, "My name is Damien Syndix." But Orion was feeling uncomfortable after seeing him. She's trying to calm herself down, and thinking that they have finally faced each other, and she is trained for this moment. Damien asked her that your skin looks pale, are you okay? She said yes and thanked him for his concern. She introduced herself to him that, "I am Mrs. Arnie Sarika." He replied he will remember that. She asked him, "What were you talking about with my brother?" He said, "So that person is your little brother?" She said yes, and thinking about Damien thoughts that they don't look like siblings at all. He said he was late for the party, but it seems it has been cancelled. He was considering returning when he met her brother and heard what happened. He heard that someone messed with the prince's drink. He said that this situation is hard to believe because he did not expect something unfortunate like this to happen on his birthday. But Orion was sure that he's enjoying this secretly, because he's aiming for the throne. That's why he don't care about the person involved. Instead, she replied that she also believed that it's very unfortunate to something like this happened on Prince's birthday. "Your Grace, the Duke?" He asked her, "How did you know that I am a Duke?" She replied, "Who doesn't know the Duke?" She said the Duke's story caused an uproar just by reading the newspapers. "And did you win the fencing championship again?" He said he was just lucky. Then she remembers in her past memories. Damien was no match for Cassidy, even though it was Cassidy's first participation in the fencing championship. And his brave appearance is still vivid in her memory, as if it were yesterday. Currently, Damien was behaving very humble, and he asked her that, "Why are you still at the palace until now?" "Because everyone has left." She was about to reply this question, but suddenly Royal Palace Guard arrested Damien. He was asking, "What the hell are you doing?" They replied that you must come with us. And it is an order from the Emperor. She was acting worriedly in front of him, but from inside she was very happy, Then after when the imperial guards took Damien into the custody, she told Took a sudden that she know there is a lot he want to say. But time is running out, so let's return to the palace first. In the chariot she asked him why did he do that. Don't tell me anything, and I am not trying to blame you. But then she put her hand on his cheek. And thinking that currently Cassidy's face shows a lot of emotion and feeling and he could not hide his trembling gaze. And if today's events are revealed, it would not only be Cassidy whose life at stake, but their entire family will be completely lost. So she said to him that whether you were the crown prince of the kingdom of Eren in the past, or even a servant, and if there is something you want to protect, so protect your life first. After hearing all of this, Cassidy was very angry and he grabbed her hand. He said that if I kill you, no one will know my identity here. So with your delicate lips, tell me your last words about how you knew all of this. She said that you were lying to yourself. He said you are aware of your situation now, but you are still saying that. She said you are foolish, Cassidy. You are unaware even of who your true enemy is, but you tried to deceive and threaten the wrong person. Because 8 years ago, the person who led the world to invade Iran was Damien's biological father. And the reason behind all of the destruction is an unknown prophecy by the great prophet of the empire. She also learned something new while gathering information about Damien. That Cassidy has no allies. He said, are you trying to deceive me now? She said, listen to what you are saying. You know that everything I've said and say is a lie. But all the moments with you were real. And now you think my words are just lies. He asked her that if she regret bringing him here even for a moment. She said she never regretted it because she bought him, and now he is her brother. This time, she don't intend to give him the answer he want. Then she hugged him and said, regardless of what others say and do, you are my dear family. And you will be fine in future, so just don't worry and relax. Then with the gentle and soothing voice, Cassidy calms down. He is under her influence. She was thinking that this is amusing that she's using him. After some time they reached to their palace. And she asked Sasha to fetch her some bathing water. And also bring her a book about the kingdom of Eren. Because she want to investigate and gather information or rumors. So just find me all the information about the kingdom of Eren. Sasha said okay. Orion asked her if she wanted more jewelry. She said she don't want any new jewelry because she gave her a whole jewelry box last time. And then she left after saying that she will go get the bath water now. She looked everywhere if anyone is looking at her. And then she knocked into Cassidy's room. He opened the door and then she asked why don't we talk a little before sleep. She entered into her room and both of them are drinking tea. She was saying that the tea leaves that seem to resist, at some point it will give up and melt. And it would not end here. No matter how hard you get. One day it will all end for sure. He was thinking that he is with someone who can dump him at any moment. What a contradiction. She was thinking that Damien has been arrested in the past, but she did not speak. She wanted him to grant all of her desires. But now she will use Cassidy until she reached her goal. She said to him to don't worry about anything. Because even if you lie as usual, it's okay. And whatever your past, it's your past. And don't forget that you are my family. So use me anytime, and if there is anything you want me to do, I will do it even if it's getting blood on my hands. I will fulfill your wish. Cassidy was very shocked and angry after hearing all of this. He asked her what is she thinking about. And do you know what you are talking about yourself? You should better curse me than say that. Tell me that I am just an ungrateful slave who does not appreciate the blessing that was given to him. So why did not you scold me? And there is no guarantee that I would not do this again. She said if we wanted to hurt me, you could have done that before. She was thinking about the 1 month time she spent it with him. And thinking about a human being who have become a beast. It is normal for him to give up easily. She said what she did is no different than what he did. She brought him and accepted him. And if someone is wrong, it's me. Instead of tending to his wounds, she opened them up more. She apologized to him. After hearing that, Cassidy was going to his bedroom. After entering into his room, he removed his shirt. And thinking about Orion, that this woman has a terrible expression at times. And it was not a sad expression, as if she was thinking deeply. It was a face without a smile. She is the one who made him look like a wonderful slave. But no one cares about the bleeding wound inside him. And she also only cares about her strong looks. He was saying to himself that he vehemently concealed his former identity, so he could not bear to live with that shame. But what is she's hesitating about? He remembered the hug in the chariot with Orion. And now he feels like his mind is a mess. His feelings are so confused it makes his head hurt. So he decided to check on her. Because he feels like he is admitting defeat like that. He wear his robe. And leaving for Orion room. He is saying a name Nona instead of Orion. He said he wanted to know more about her. And he wanted to hear her voice. He feels like his body was burning when he hear her voice. She asked him if he is sick. But he grabbed her hand and said he feels the increase in heat. And his body react like this to only her. He grabbed her into his arms. And said that the fever seems to be getting worse. He wonder what's making his body burn up like this, dear sister. He complimented her that she is very beautiful. And she amazed him every time he see her. He is moving her hand on his chest. And saying that your hand is soft on my skin. But then she said that these are wounds from swords and axes. And these cards would not be so deep if they were not neglected for long periods of time. She thought it was because he was a gladiator, but these scars were made on purpose. Because they are not from fighting in the arena. She asked him if he was being tortured in the past. He said yes. She asked him to sit for a moment, then she closed his eyes. And started to use her healing magic. And after some time, she said she's done. And then he looked at his body. However, there is not a single scar left on his body. Cassidy was shocked after seeing all of this. She asked him if he is surprised. She said that she just used the same ointment she mentioned last time. And if she had known it was this bad, she would have treated all your wounds the first time we met. She asked him that it must have hurt a lot. But you could not say anything. And it must have been difficult for him, was not it? My dear brother. So don't worry about that anymore and get a good night's sleep. Then she fell asleep. And he was thinking that it seems that he have fallen into the trap. Next day in the morning, Sasha was in very hurry and asking for mistress. She entered into her room and said that, my lady, you need to get ready. Orion asked her what is the reason to cause such a commotion this early in the morning. She replied that His Royal Highness is here in the mansion. She asked the Crown Prince, but for what reason he have come? That he came personally just to see her. And he is in the salon right now. He's waiting for her. Adding asked her that, did he say anything else? She replied he didn't, said not a single word more. She was thinking that why he have come here. Because the accusation against Cassidy opposing the Crown Prince must not have been proven. Sasha said that maybe His Royal Highness fell in love with her at first sight? She said of course not, Sasha. That would not be the case. She was thinking that he must have come out of curiosity. And she is sure his interest will fade over time. And it looks like the Crown Prince has too much time on his hand. And she was also thinking that Cassidy's patience in enduring this for years is truly admirable. Even if it's for revenge. Next slide had reported him that the empire is turned absolutely upside down. Because there is a rumor going around that it was Duke Damien who poisoned the Crown Prince. And now he is held in the imperial prison. But she was wondering that a duke could not lack anything which make him do this. And everyone is saying that he might be released soon since there is not enough evidence to prove it. Orion was thinking that about no clear evidence. Because they cannot rely on yesterday's situation alone. Even if Damien were the real culprit, he would still find a way to get out of it. But right now he is not the culprit, and once he's out of prison, he will surely look for the real culprit. And if he finds out the truth, he will use it as an excuse to convince Cassidy to join him. So she was thinking that in this meantime, she need to gather more evidence about Damien. So she was thinking about meeting the Crown Prince in a very colorful way. Sasha asked her, "What would you like to wear, my lady?" She replied, "It needs to be as elegant as possible. So please bring me something colorful." Cassidy was waiting outside of her room. And then she also came outside after wearing a red and white dress. He asked her, "Where are you going in such a hurry?" She replied that there is a guest in the salon. He asked her if he can join her. She said that might be a bit difficult because you poisoned him the last time you saw him. He sarcastically asked her that he must be a pretty important guest, right? She was thinking that now Cassidy is not hesitating to reveal its true nature. But she's very happy. After all of this and thinking that why does this fact make her so happy? After some time, she entered into the salon. The Crown Prince is waiting for her. He said that he almost died from boredom while waiting. She apologized to the Royal Highness for the delay, and said greetings to the little son of the Empire. He said that she don't have to be so formal, because it's not like it's the first time they have met each other anyway. She was thinking that why is he acting like they are very close? She only wants that the Crown Prince to meet Damien. So she can't lose her composure now. He said that you must be wondering why I came here this morning. I will speak plainly with you. The Crown Prince asked Orion that what do you think about becoming the Crown Princess? She was shocked after hearing this and said what kind of nonsense is this? He is explaining her that His Majesty has already given his permission. So there is no need to worry about anything. And he is very grateful that you saved my life. On a different subject, is not there a false rumor that your family amassed their wealth through mining? Up until now the imperial family has provided protection to the Circaeus. But we can't continue doing that with so many rumors circulating, when you have no actual ties to the throne. And His Majesty was also thinking for some time to make you my wife. Orion said that this is all so sudden. I am quite happy with the life I have now. He asked her in a very doubtful voice. Are you telling me that you want to give up the chance to become the highest-ranked noble woman in the entire empire? She said, I appreciate your concern for me, but I must decline this offer. With a smile, Crown Prince said that you are not at all what I expected about you. You are an interesting person, my lady. During their conversation, someone entered into the room. Orion was thinking who would be so rude as to enter without knocking? It was none other than Cassidy. He apologized for the interruption. But to Orion, he does not seem sorry at all. He dropped the cookies plate on the table forcefully. He said while looking at the Crown Prince, I thought you might be hungry, so I prepared some snacks. Orion was in panic situation and thinking about Sasha. Where are you? Crown Prince said, excellent work, you may leave now. But Cassidy ignored him. He again said that you may go. But he is not listening at all. After some time of silence, Orion introduced him by saying, this is my younger brother Cassidy, so please forgive his rudeness. Crown Prince said, you two don't look alike at all. Because one of you has blonde hair and the other has silver hair. Even your eye colors are completely different, you don't appear to share the same blood. Orion said, although we may not share the same bloodline, but he is still my precious brother. Crown Prince said about Cassidy that not only does he have a good temperament, but he's way much handsome on top of that. So I can understand with a younger brother like this, no wonder your standards are so high. Orion said you are right, he is attractive in many ways. After hearing this from Aaron, Crown Prince coughed the food he was eating. He laughed, and said it should be nice if your handsome brother left now. We were discussing something very important. Cassidy asked, am I not allowed to hear what was said? With a very comfort state, Crown Prince said, if you want to know I will tell you. He told him that he planned on making his sister the Crown Princess in the near future. Orion was in panic situation after the Crown Prince told Cassidon what he was talking about. On the other hand, Cassidon became very serious after hearing this. She said, "I clearly refused your proposal earlier." The Crown Prince replied to officially decline the offer. "You must come to the Imperial Palace. So meet me tomorrow at noon in front of the palace fountain, and also come alone." After some time, the Crown Prince leave the palace. Cassidon asked to Orion that, "Is what he said earlier the truth?" She replied yes, he did not lie. He asked her if she's planning to go to the Imperial Palace tomorrow. But she had no choice, so she have to go. Cassidon recommended her to don't go. She asked, "Why are you saying this?" He said it might be a trap. "And I feel especially uneasy with his last request. It's suspicious for him to ask you to come alone. And he don't think anything good can come out of this." She asked him, "Can you predict the future?" He told her that the eyes give away a lot about a person, as does the rest of their face. And just looking at him, it's clear that he is not a good person. Orion was thinking that. Look at what he's saying now, questioning the morals of the Crown Prince. She said, "That's too bad. I don't like the Crown Prince when I first met him either." Cassidon said, "It seems that you have the same opinion as me." They both are laughing together while talking or criticizing about Crown Prince. She was thinking that it's very entertaining to listen to someone criticize the Crown Prince. Besides, he's not just an ordinary brother. Cassidon asked her, "What was your first impression of me?" She said, "I thought you seemed a lot like me." He asked, "Why is that? What is similar between us?" She said, "Well, if you were to ask me why, I would say that it just felt that way. But the truth, that is what caught my attention more than his beautiful appearance. Were his eyes, which told a profound story within them. In his eyes was a sadness like the light of dawn. There was also an empty void." After that she asked him, "What about you, Cassidon? What was your first impression of me?" He said, "That's a secret." After hearing this she laughed in front of him. However, Orion knew that it is pointless to expect an answer from a liar. She asked him to tell her. "That did you think I was a good person or a bad person?" He said, "I don't recall," and moved his head against her. She reminded him. By saying, "They say you can tell the type of person by just looking into their eyes." She pulled his hand and asked, "So what kind of person am I to you?" He removed his hand from her grip. He apologized to her, and said he just don't know about that. He said, "Don't you despise me?" She asked, "What reason is there for me to hate you?" Cassidon said, "To be honest, rather than being a good or bad person, you are just strange." She was shocked after hearing this, and asked him if he thinks she is odd. And she was wondering if he's really telling the truth. And she is blushing very hardly because she thinks this is the first time, Cassidon said, "to be honest with me." He's also blushing. She asked him, "Why is your face so red? You said you had a fever last night, is it still not better?" He said, "This is all your fault, and it's nothing." At the night in the library, Orion was wondering, would it still be like this if they were blood-related siblings? She was searching the book about Kingdom of Hiren. But only the chapter on the Kingdom of Hiren has been cut out from all of the books. She thinks she can learn anything from here. And knowing Cassidon, he would not have left any evidence behind when he broke into the palace. And there is another problem. How should I handle Damien when I meet him? Exposing all of Damien's evil deeds will be much harder than simply making him fall. Because he is not an idiot. So she was thinking it should be best if she act the part of the fool. She also thinks she understood how Cassidon feels. She remembered the pain of that day. The day that she died. Next day, she reached near the Empire Palace fountain. After seeing her, Crown Prince said, "You are here." She said, "Greetings to the little son of the Empire. As I said, I am here to reject your proposal." He asked, "Why are you in such a hurry? Let's sit and talk." The Crown Prince is looking around. If she have brought someone with her. She said, "You don't have to worry. I have not brought anyone." He complimented her by saying, "Your hair looks very beautiful." Is that because you possess healing power? In a concerning way, she said, what if someone overhears you? He said, if you're so concerned about it, why don't you become the successor? She said, firstly, you don't even like me. I will heal you, but I would not be your plaything. He asked, does marriage require love? Aristocrats don't sit with random people in love whenever they want, do they? And you will have a lot of power if you are with me. All that matters is that your power will belong to the imperial family. She believed it's a good deal between them. She said, I'm happy with my current life. Orion asked the permission of your highness. Because she want to ask him about an interest? How can we make another deal? He said, please tell me the details about the deal. Orion said, was the Duke Damien really arrested on suspicion of poisoning you? You told me he is currently in the imperial prison. So can you create an opportunity for me to meet him? He asked, do you need permission to visit the Duke? She said, if you allow me, I will show you my healing power right here, right now. He said, did not you said to me that you could not heal someone unless they were injured? She replied, when did I say my abilities were limited to humans? I can also make the garden you are stepping on right now bloom again. He stepped up his foot from the flower. And then she started healing it. The flower became as healthy as new. He said, that's impossible. And came close to her, then asked, are you a saint? How does your healing power work? She said, I'm not a saint, I'm just a healer. He plucked that flower and said, if you stay here, you might get trampled by someone else's shoes. So I will put this flower in my room. She asked, why do you care if it gets stepped on again? He said, allow me to ask you a question. Why do you want to see the Duke? I thought there was no reason for you to go all the way to the prison to meet him. Orion was waiting for him to ask why. But now she was wondering, what should she say? She can say, do I believe in love at first sight? But it's strange to confess to someone in prison. She can either say, I thought I should see a beautiful face after all that distance. But it's also not good, it's strange even for her. He asked her, why don't you answer me? She was thinking, can't this person wait for me for more than 3 seconds? After finalizing her answer, she said, Your Highness, are you sure the Duke is guilty? He said, no, I don't think so. Why would someone in such a high position as the Duke do something like this? There is no solid evidence anywhere. It could be someone else with a grudge against the palace. She said the reason he fell under suspicion is his late arrival at the party. Plus the poison that only grows in the northern lands. And I was the one who discovered the poison you consumed. As I told His Majesty, it's a toxic herb that grows abundantly in the north. So I was guilty of blaming the Duke due to the lack of concrete evidence. That's why I'm worried about him, and wanted to see how he is treated in the prison. Crown Prince asked her, why do you think he's innocent? Would it be more dangerous if I told the truth? She said, what is true for one person may be false for another. After hearing this, the Crown Prince put his hand forward and said, ever since I understood your words well, I will lead you directly to the prison. She was thinking that was a brilliant success. But there is a guard watching them all of the time. She was thinking, is that a man wearing a helmet in this weather? It's very hot. And then after some time of travel, they reached to the prison. She asked, is this tower the imperial prison? Crown Prince said, I bet you have not seen it before, since the imperial record is far away from the royal palace. But then the Crown Prince noticed that someone is following them. He asked, why are you following us like this? The knight did not reply anything. However, Orion noticed that his eyes are purple. The knight asked, would you like to kindly tell me everything you want to do in this place, madam? Crown Prince appreciated him by saying, you are making a great effort, knight. The Crown Prince asked Orion, do you know why I asked you to come alone to this place? Because your brother's gaze is unusual. Orion was thinking, of course, he's the person who tried to assassinate you, and now his life is in danger because of that. She said, my little brother, you can be a bit selective, he's quite different. The prince said, it is not about the gaze he casts on anyone, but the distinctive gaze he casts on you. Because normally that's not the gaze that any person casts on their own sister. And don't you think your bloodline is also a little bit mixed? Orion was thinking that if this conversation will go any further, then the crown prince will become suspicious of Cassidon, so she needs to stop it. She said, His Majesty, Cassidon is part of my family. He's one of the people I greatly appreciate. If you talk about my only brother in this way, I will feel embarrassed and ashamed. With a smile, the crown prince said, The feelings of affection towards your brother are also exceptional. She replied with a smile, He is the most precious person to me in this world. I believe you have shown me the way sufficiently. He asked her, Will you stay alone in this terrible prison? She replied, I cannot continue to cause trouble for you. And the Archduke is also in prison because I made him appear suspicious in poisoning your highness. It might be difficult to have a peaceful conversation with him. If your highness is with us in prison. Crown Prince was thinking about it. And after I thought, he said, I understand now. He looked at the knight and said, I'm done here, so stay by the lady's side until she meets the Archduke. And if anything happens to her, it will be entirely your fault. The Archduke is on the 8th floor. He asked the knight rank and name. But Orion interfered them and said, I will only speak with the Archduke and return immediately. So there is no need to be worried about me? Crown Prince said, Do you know I could not properly celebrate my birthday, so I will organize another feast very soon. I will send you an invitation so we will meet again soon. And for your information, you don't have a chance to refuse. He came close to her and said, Until then I will cherish the flower you gave me in the garden. And then the Crown Prince left both of them. She asked the knight, Cassidon, why are you here? He said, Did you know it was me? She replied, How could I not recognize you? He have no words to say on this, and how could you steal a royal knight's shield? He said, I did not steal it, I merely borrowed it. The owner of this shield will be unconscious all day, so there will not be a problem. She said, You speak of it as it is a minor matter. But what will you do if you get caught? He said, I have great confidence in myself. I have fully grasped the movements and steps of the palace knights. She said, That's not a problem at all. Your luck was good the last time. With the sparkling eyes, he came close to her and asked, Are you worried about me? She said, Do you know what's happening, Cassidon? I have not stopped worrying since I woke up in the morning, even before going to bed at night. With a smile he said, It's nice to hear that you care about me to this extent. She asked him, Did you come to the palace because you were worried about me? He was thinking about it, and after some time he said yes. Otherwise, why should I do something so foolish? Should we continue advancing in this prison? They both started to move towards 8th floor. Orion was thinking about the stinky smell which was coming from the prison. Cassidon said, This floor seems like a maze. Escaping from here is completely impossible. The people in charge of distributing food to the prisoners know how to get out. It seems this prison is working well despite the lack of fearful guards. He asked her who comes to visit him in a prison like this. She said, You will know when you see him. Both of them reached at the 8th floor. Damien was sitting on the chair. He was reading a book in a very elegant way. Orion was remembering the time when she loved his black hair, his emerald eyes. But at that time she did not know what was hiding beneath this beautiful mask. She asked him, Do you remember me? Damien replied, You are Miss Orion, the daughter of Count Serica. I have met you once, but I can remember you. I think I have also seen this guard before. Cassidon moved his head into another direction. Orion said, He's a royal guard assigned to accompany me here. Damien said, It seems I mistook him for someone else. He came close to her and asked, So what brings you here alongside this royal guard? This place is restricted to anyone other than the prisoners here. She said, His Highness the Prince gave me his permission. He was confused after hearing that, and said, Did the Prince allow you to do that? She said, He guided me to the entrance to the tower as well. He asked, Did His Highness guide you here personally too? She said, Yes, he did. Damien was thinking about something and said, Can I know the reason for your presence here? She said with a sad voice that, Archduke, actually I know that you are not guilty. I know that you did not did this. He asked why you are sure I'm not the culprit? And what is the reason that the young lady came to this prison to visit me? She said, what do you think is the reason I came here? Damien said, at least I don't think you came here to playing with words like this. Orion was thinking that I guess I am estimating my usefulness. You arrogant human being, you are just a devil with only a colorful shell. And then she said with her very pretty smile, the Duke, you are the person I fell in love with at first sight. After hearing this, Damien sarcastically laughed and said, let's hear the true reason for which you came to this prison. She asked, don't you believe me? He said, no one will believe you if he or she is in this situation. She started to cry and said, oh my God, I took a risk coming to this prison to see you. How could you do this to me? If I knew I would hear this from the beginning, I would not have come. Damien was confused after seeing her in this state. He asked, did you really love me at first sight? She came close to him and said, of course. What kind of crazy person would come to this prison if not for this reason? I did not believe in love at first sight, until when I met you. She said, I saw your slightly open lips and your blushing cheeks, the dark black hair, and the bright eyes like stars in the sky. Damien was in confused state, and was not able to reply at all. Cassidy was shocked after hearing all of this. She was continuously praising him by saying, you have such a sharp jawline, calm voice. She was thinking that currently she had to endure embarrassment for her own sake. She said, do you know how sad I was when they took you suddenly? Even before we could have a decent conversation. She was thinking that instead of showing him as something small and trivial, it's better to consider herself as a bright and clear woman. She said, I managed to convince His Highness to come here and meet you, the Archduke. He asked, you must be very close to His Majesty. She was thinking that it seems he's interested in that too. Even in his previous life, the Crown Prince and Damien were never on good terms. Damien intensely tried to get close to him, but the Crown Prince always broke his promise of meeting. In that sense, the Crown Prince's proposal was very unconventional. And it's much better this way. Because there will be many limitations on her practical authority beyond the position offered to her. If she agreed to marry the Crown Prince. If the Crown Prince approaches her openly, he will definitely be bossed for her presence. Also because of the Prince's personality, if she suddenly accepts his offer, he will lose all interest he has in her. More than that, it's best to keep our distance, attract his attention and thus reach Damien. She said the Crown Prince even sent a knight from the palace to accompany her here. And if you don't believe me, you can ask His Majesty. If you tell me why you arrived late for the banquet, I will assure His Highness that you are not the culprit. Damien turned around and started to move away from her. He said, okay, if that's the case, then let's do this. If you tell me more details about what you do and how you came to know His Highness, I would also inform you about the reason for my late arrival. He said with a smile that he also wanted to know more about her. Orion was thinking that he does not want to lose against her, even if he's on the brink of death. She asked, do you want me to talk about His Highness in front of a royal knight? It seems you still don't trust me. With a serious face she said, I think I should be a fool to fall in love with you. Damien came into little panic after hearing all of this. She said she can't believe she have come all this way just to help the Archduke. So how can you shatter my pure heart like this? Thanks to you, I can truly see what kind of person the Duke is. Damien ran towards her in a panic state, and said, my lady, it ended up with me being very rude to the young lady. I will tell you the reason for my late arrival. Just don't leave like this. In fact, I was preparing a special gift for the prince. She said you had plenty of time before the performance to prepare the gift. He said it was a gift that required a lot of preparation, and for that reason I had to take care of it on my own. She asked, what on earth is the gift? After a thought, he said, all right, I will tell you, because I want you to know. And then he said the gift was a slave. He bought him from a distant country because he had exceptional physical abilities. He's a very strong man, and because of that I had to go through tough times to keep him from biting his tongue and dying. She asked, a slave? He said, Miss, I think you misunderstood something. Slaves often have excellent physical abilities, and they are rarely sold at a high price. Just a month ago, there was a real case where a wrestler slave was sold for billions of gold pieces. Jessica was thinking that it seems he is talking about Cassidon. But no matter how poorly slaves are treated, and how they are not considered humans within the empire, how could you give something like this to the crown prince on his birthday? And this was your excuse to hide your delay due to your heart condition. But if that's the case, we must use this as a reason. With a smile she said, Well done, Archduke, send this slave with me. He asked, What do you mean by that? She said, Do you know the poison consumed by the crown prince is a very deadly poison which only grows in the north? And that was the crucial reason why you ended up in prison. He asked, What do you mean it was poison from the north? She said she discovered the poison, and by chance the Archduke arrived late that night. Somebody told me while we were talking about the crown prince. So, that's what it was all about. He said, There is no doubt I arrived late, but I found it strange that they were so certain I was the culprit. She said, If you send me the servant, I will tell His Highness everything. And I will be able to prove your innocence. I will show them all the evidence, and they will believe me. And I only said that because I was upset that you did not trust me. It's impossible for me to leave you in this situation, right? He said, Well, this is good. I will send it to you. And if I leave from here, I want you to offer me a little of your time, because of eternal love that you claim. With a blushy face she said, Oh God, are you asking me out on a date? But inside her head she was thinking that you fell into that trap, Damien. He said with a smile that I will tell you the details of my schedule when I leave this place. So please talk to His Highness. Orion was thinking that he believes it's a good opportunity to gather information about the prince. She said, Of course, I will look forward to meeting you again. And then Damien said, I sincerely hope we can spend enjoyable time together soon. Orion was thinking that if that's the case, then I will use all of this against you. Cassidine was looking at her. At night Orion was on her mansion. Sasha entered into the room, and put a paper on the table. Orion asked, What is this? She said, It is related to the kingdom you mentioned that day. In fact, she could not find any information for ages, so she came across an information dealer. Orion was worried about it, and said, Sasha, it can't be. It's dangerous to walk in those alleys alone. Sasha said there was someone she used to buy some necessity from, and she found what she wanted. Sasha said, I covered my face when I bought the necessary items. I asked for help from that person. Of course it would be difficult to do something like this alone. So she was thinking of how to make things more efficient by using the jewelry Orion gave to her. She heard that there is someone who knows a lot about the kingdom of Heron there. With a smile Orion said it would be helpful to talk to him, so let's go together to that place tomorrow morning. After some time Orion was opening the windows. And then she noticed that someone came into the room. It was none other than Cassidon. She said, I managed to retrieve in one piece. But Cassidon was looking very serious and sad. She asked Cassidon, Don't make me worried, what's happening? Did you get caught while returning to the Knight's Shield? He said no, he didn't get caught. She asked him then, Can you tell me why you look so upset? Cassidon asked, Do you like man with green eyes? She looked towards him. He asked, Do you dislike me because I don't have green eyes? She stood up and said, Cassidon, of course not. Why would I dislike you because you don't have green eyes? He asked then, Why did you say that in front of me earlier? And you said jet black hair and eyes that resemble the star in the sky, a sharp chin and a quiet voice that holds a serene timbre. In an awkward way she was thinking that he memorized it word for word. She said, Cassidine, I like you more than anybody, so please don't think that. I don't like you because you don't have green eyes. With a smile she said, Whatever you look like, I will love you the most in the world. In an angry way he threw the cup of tea and asked, How many men have you fooled? This way? While saying this he grabbed her. She said, Cassidon, what are you doing? He said, My sister, I asked you a question. How many men have there been before me? She said, You are the first one. He was touching her hair. She was thinking that how can he be so strong? I can't breathe. He said, please don't look away from me. You must look into my eyes when you speak to me. She asked, why are you doing this? With a scary smile he was grabbing her neck and said, sister, I don't know you were able to make a face like this. She pushed him away. He said, if someone saw all of this mess, they are going to think like I did something terrible to you. Even though I have not done anything to you yet, she said, I'm ready to endure anything you wish to do to me, since you are my one and only brother. If this makes you feel better, go right ahead. But do you feel better at all? Because I'm certain that you are not that kind of a man. Cassidy said, you better not anger me any more than you already have. She was thinking that it was such a poor thing. He has become so distrustful of people that anger is the only emotion he knows how to show. And I know that beneath that tough exterior he is tender-hearted. She said, I am always on your side. He replied, I don't like you, Orion. She came close to him and grabbed her cheeks. She said, it's okay even if you don't like me. It's okay if you use me. I just pray that you will stop torturing yourself. After hearing all of this, he turned back and started to go away from her. She was thinking that I agree with the Cassidy to a certain extent. After all, I have taken him in as my family in order to use him. But he lied to me too, didn't he? The crown prince of a perished kingdom must have many stories to tell. Yet he refuses to tell me anything about his past. The kingdom of Hiren, a place that was destroyed under the pretense of a prophecy and Cassidy's homeland. She had no choice but to find out about it herself. On the next day, she and Sasha were going to a place. Her maid Sasha said, Milady, are you sure we will be okay without an escort? Perhaps we should have come with Lord Cassidy. What if something happens to you? Orion said, it's not like I'm alone, so I will be fine, you are with me. She was thinking that after all, I am looking into Cassidy past, so I can't bring along the man himself. Orion said, more importantly, I don't think you call this a path, Sasha. Are you sure someone really lives in a mountain like this? Perhaps the map is wrong? In an angry look, Sasha said, if I was given the wrong information, I'm going to break that information broker's third leg, so he can never use it again. Orion said, let's just keep going. And then suddenly both of them found a small house. Orion knocked at the door and said hello, but no one replied. Sasha said, maybe whoever used to live here moved away. It looks like a haunted house. Orion said, let's wait a while longer just in case. But then suddenly an old man opened the door. He said, what brings you to the humble abode of this old man? Orion said, I heard that you know a lot about the kingdom of Hiren. I know we have come uninvited, but I was hoping to find out about how this kingdom perished. So could you tell me your name? The old man said, I am called Nocius. He said, I can see that you are receiving God's love. I may be a blind old man, but I can feel God's touch on you, my lady. After listening all of this, she was shocked and said, could it be that you are the great prophet Nocius? The old man said, I was called by that nickname once, but now I'm just an old hermit. Orion said, the world believes that you have passed away. The old man said, I am paying for my sin of revealing the future and taking away many lives. I am living as quietly as a mouse. But it must be God's will that you found me here. The peaceful kingdom of Hiren perished because of this foolish old man's mistake. Orion said, may I ask about the content of your prophecy? He said, since you are beloved by God, I'm sure I can tell you. He said, the greatest overlord in history, who will have all of the kingdoms including the empire, kneel before him, and rule all living things from above, shall be born in the kingdom of Hiren. After hearing this, both of them were shocked. She asked, is the person in your prophecy still alive? The old man said, yes, he is still alive. But this prophecy is now facing a completely new conjuncture. He said, the hook with a broken wing has found the nest it belongs to, and the black crow of arrogance will burn to death, while coveting the hawk's nest. This is as much as I can tell you. She asked, could you tell me the true meaning of this prophecy in detail? He said, you already know the answer to that question, milady. After a moment she said, then may I ask you one last question? She asked, what did you mean that I was beloved by God? He said, it's just as it sounds. After all, in this world everything does happen for a reason indeed. After hearing all of this, both of them started to move away from him. Sasha was saying, I'm disappointed that he is going to find another place to live. I can't believe the person we found was the great prophet Nocius. At that time I was so shocked. but of course I could not understand most of the things he said. Orion said, "This is all thanks to you, Sasha. We learned a lot today." In her mind she was thinking, since Hauken Deus has already passed away. The Black Crow nauseous mention must be Damien. He pretended not to be interested in the throne, yet he destroyed Hiron in order to eliminate the greatest ruler in history. She was thinking that did he really mean to put his son on the throne? If Cassadine finds out that the man who trampled his kingdom is already dead, how will he react? She wondered that after suddenly becoming a slave in the blink of an eye, what allowed him to endure those miserable and horrible years? He must have been his burning rage for revenge. Then if he discovers that the son of the man who destroyed his kingdom is alive, will that make him happy? With a smile she said, "My poor brother, I'm happy." And then she burnt the map, where she found the prophet. She was thinking, the fact that you and I have a common enemy. How could I have received God's love when I have become so twisted? I don't deserve it. In the evening she knocked at the door of Cassadin's room. Cassadin asked, "What brought you to my room?" He was standing behind her, and he said, "Looks like you have some business with me." With a smile she said, "Should I have a specific reason for meeting you?" He said, "This is impossible." He opened the door and said, "Come in. I think it's too cold outside to stay here and talk." With a sharp look he looked towards her and said, "Sister." After entering into the room, he moved his hand towards her neck, but he stopped his hand and started to play with her hair. He said, "Where are you all the day?" She put his hand on her cheek and said, "If you were curious about it, you should have followed me." She said, "You never tell me the truth. What the hell are you afraid of? Are you afraid to tell me who you really are?" She said, "You want me to take you back to this damn wrestling arena? Or maybe I am scared." She grabbed his hand and said, "Cassadin, how good would that be if I could make you feel better?" Suddenly she put his hand on her neck and said, "You can strangle me with more force. Do it as often as you like." In a shocking way he was looking towards her. She said, "As much as you don't trust me, you can strangle me." He removed his hand from her neck. He shouts, "Are not you afraid of death? Or maybe you are crazy?" He asked, "Why do you show up?" And then suddenly he grabbed her in his arm and apologized to her. He said, "All of this was my fault. I will not do this again. So please forgive me." After hearing this she started to cry, and, in her mind she was thinking, my cute little brother Cassadine had never asked me for anything before. She thought she cried all the tears she had in her past life. She said, "I love you, Cassadine." And then at the night Cassadine was staring at his hand and thinking that I'm tired. I have not slept since last night because I could not get her out of my head. Although I knew Orion would leave in the morning, I stayed here on purpose. It was upsetting to see that, but I thought it would be best not to keep seeing her. However, it was even more upsetting that she was not here with me. He was thinking that why the hell I went to that mansion. Because I wanted information. But why did I feel the world collapsing around me when I heard that she had fallen in love at first sight with the Archduke? He was remembering a moment when she put his hand on her neck and said, "How good it would be if I could make you feel better." He was thinking that at that moment, what he felt from her was fear, perhaps deep inside sadness, and somehow it drove him crazy. But what's even crazier is that he knows he's falling too deep. So I can't let it go, because I think if I do it may disappear like the brightest star that would fly in the midst of a foggy night. After some days, both of them were sitting on the chairs and eating their breakfast. Orion was looking towards him and thinking that Cassadin has been kinder since that day. He does not feel the need to lie, and he doesn't visit her room every night. She was thinking that maybe she went too far. She do not regret taking the risk. She understands if he does not trust her very much, but she wanted to see him with Kenny's mom. She really did not intend to die. "Cassadin has spent more time observing what I do." She asked, "What's the problem?" With a smiley face he was looking towards her and said, "It's not a big deal." After some time she was reading a newspaper, and in the newspaper she read about the judge of a royal family. Sasha said once released, the Archduke submitted a lawsuit for defamation without clear evidence. After hearing this, Orion was thinking that he is such a weak person. She put the newspaper on the table, and thought it did not matter if Damien won the trial. The people who have the most to lose are the most miserable, they think. She thought she could finally rest in peace. but it would take to meet face to face soon. She was thinking that when I meet him, I'm sure he will recognize me right away. She looked outside of the window and asked, "Why is there so much noise outside?" But then suddenly someone opened the door and said, "Madam, someone sent you a gift." She asked, "What gift?" The maid said, "I know who sent it, but they said you will know right away that it is slave." After hearing this, she was thinking that looks like Damien's waist has just arrived. She go outside to see the slave and found that he was all dirty and wearing torn clothes. After seeing him, she covered her nose and started to think, was he really going to give this slave to the crown prince as a birthday present? One of the person who came here with him said that the slave is so violent that it is difficult to deal with him. I wonder if it will be okay with him. Orion said, "It doesn't matter, please get him off the card." One of the men said, "The Archduke asked us to deliver a message with the slave. He said he wants to meet you as soon as possible. He put down something and said the Archduke sends this to. They are sedatives. They turn any wild beast into a docile worm. Of course it doesn't have any effect on his body, so you don't have to worry. And in just an instant they would calm his fierce temper." In a fiery way she was looking at the sedatives. The person said, "If you are satisfied with these medicine, do not hesitate to visit His Excellency's residence to obtain more." And then all of that man leave the mansion. She opened the cage of that slave and started to look towards him. She thought that they drugged him. But then suddenly Cassidy came towards her and in her ear, he said, "Sister," she said, "Cassidy, you scared me. Can you move around and make some noise?" He said, "I can't do that. I would not be able to see the expression of surprise on your face when you get scared." With a serious look he looked towards the cage and asked, "Is this the slave?" She said, "Yes, this is correct." She was thinking that Damien is such a bad guy that she struggled to stop him from biting his tongue to that. She was thinking that how painful was the slave life for making such an extreme decision. Just looking at those needles and the cage he's locked up in, she feel it must have been horrible. Cassidy asked, "What are you going to do with it?" She said, "It is a gift, so you need to clean him and change his clothes." Cassidy called 3 powerful people to clean it up. And Orion said, "Make sure you give him something to eat and give him a bedroom." The person said, "Yes, miss, we will do this right away." She was looking at Cassidy and thought, perhaps he is afraid that someone else will take his place. She put her hand on his back and said, "You are the only brother I have, so don't make such an expression." He said, "Yes, I understand." At the Empire someone said, "Leon, have you really lost your mind? Did you lose it completely?" Leon said, "Stop screaming, my ear is hurting." The king said, "People will think that the place of the crown princess could be anyone. Do you think that's why I introduce you to Miss Orion?" With a smile he said, "Your Majesty, you know what? Miss Orion refused to take the position of crown princess. She's a really funny woman, isn't she? If she had accepted the offer quickly, my interest in her would have completely disappeared." He came close to the king and said, "My imperial palace in ruins after the assassination attempt. In addition, Archduke Damien failed a lawsuit against us, so your Majesty is very wise. And yet you made the mistake of not being able to find the real culprit. So for this reason the royal family has become a mockery of everyone. So what would I really care about?" After hearing this, his father grabbed his clothes and said, "How dare you, Leon?" The prince said, "Your Highness, what would you do if someone saw you like that?" In an anger the king said, "The crown prince of this empire would say something like that. I have prepared the throne for you." The prince said, "By saying that make you feel less guilty about what happened to my late mother." He said, "I never wanted this. I never wanted any position, not a crown prince nor your love." After hearing this the king was trembling, and he removed his hand from the prince. The prince started to move away and said, "I don't want you to contact me for any other matter, so I will leave now." After some time he was laying on his bed, and looking towards the flower which was treated by Orion. With a smiley face he was saying her name. On the other side Orion was confused. Her servant said, "Miss, we simply cannot take any measures against this servant. What should I do?" Orion said, "That's right. There could not be any clothes that fit him in this place either." She thought that this room is so small it looks like a mess. His body is almost perfect, like the perfect combination of a bear and a black panther. Damien did not intend to give this slave to the crown prince without any reason. Someone said we should order some clothes. What should you do if he stayed in this state, and in this place? Another maid apologized to her. Orion said it doesn't matter, I watch it by myself. She asked what is your name? But the slave did not reply to her. One of the servants said why don't you say anything? Orion said it's okay, you must be tired. You don't have to tell me now, the servant said, but miss, this food is so precious, even the clothes you want to give him. You honor this servant too much. But Orion looked towards the servant. After the look, the servant apologized to her. Orion said there is no problem with that, so leave this place. She said to the slave that you must be tired after a long journey, so you can eat as much as you want. I will prepare more food if that is not enough. Still he did not reply to anything. She said don't worry about what others said earlier, it's okay to eat comfortably. But he again did not reply. She said does this food not satisfy you? You must be thirsty because it's so hot outside. But still there is not a single reply. She was thinking that Damien would not have sent such a disobedient slave to the crown prince. It cannot be, she said, can you move that couch over here? After hearing this command, he stood up and grabbed the couch in his hand. She was thinking that it takes 3 servants to lift this thing. And he did this alone. He doesn't eat, he does not talk. He just follows order. He is such a creepy. It's like a person who is born only for physical labor. She touched his body and thought that he also has some strange wounds. Some look like bites, but if you check them out on books, they don't look like they were made by humans or animals. She used her holy magic, and thought that his heart rate is irregular due to the sedative. It just increases his energy without any additional supplementation. But on the contrary, the inside of his body was completely destroyed. She checked his mouth, and she was shocked. She found that this slave don't have tongue. In a shocking way, she was thinking that who cut it? Orion was checking the sedatives. She released some of that on herbs. And among the herbs that interact with that sedatives formed the poison. It has intentionally made it impossible to know what ingredients it was combined with. She thought that it is a poison disguised as a nerve relaxant. She looked toward the slave, and thought poisoning a slave as a gift to gain the favor of the crown prince. A powerful slave who should not stay at the crown prince's sight for long. So Damien must eliminate and advance those who will later become obstacles in his path. And she thought that did not my previous life and like this too. She ordered the slave to lie down on the bed and said it's in order. He followed the order. She was thinking that even when Cassidon arrived, there were not many times where it seemed tight. So currently let's get rid of the poison that has spread in his head. And even bring back his voice. She touched his chest and said, it would be nice to have a normal conversation. So if you come to your senses, can you tell me what happened in the Duke's office? She started to use her holy magic. And she can feel it in her fingertips. Poison devoured his powerful body. She was thinking that it is so dangerous that it cannot be compared to the poison that the prince ate. It will not be enough to heal your damaged body from the inside out. So I must focus more. She put all of her strength in healing. After some time he opened his eyes and said, who are you? But Orion was thinking that until now I should try not to. But I did it. Then she suddenly fell on his chest. Outside of the room someone was saying, every time I go on patrol, Miss Gift piled up like a mountain. The count waited 3 hours under the hot sun to buy the time honey. One of the maids said he kept this precious thing. So let me see. But then Orion's father came and told them I said I would deliver it directly. He picked the gifts and reached to the Orion room. He knocked the door and said, can I come in? You have just arrived at the palace. Are you in your room, my daughter? But there was not a single voice coming out from the room. He opened the door and found that Erin was laying on a slave chest. Her father dropped the gifts and said, you beast, what are you doing? On the other hand, Cassidine walking on the palace. He was thinking about when Orion met the slave. He said, I'm being childish. But then he heard a sound. Someone said, you fucking crazy. After hearing this, Cassidine rushed towards the room. In the room, Orion's father was about to kill the slave with his sword. He was saying, how dare you touch my daughter? Cassidine said, my dad, what are you doing? But then he found that Orion was unconsciously laying on the slave. Cassidine became angry after seeing this. He rushed towards the slave and punched him. Cassadine said, I will kill this man. Orion's father said, how did you say, Cassadine? For today I will let you kill. The slave was confused. In an angry mood, Cassadine said, how dare you touch? And take advantage of the time when I'm not here to play. The slave said, what is this? Who are you? Leave me. But then the slave was shocked. He thought, my words, do they come out? But they cut out my tongue. Cassadine said, do you want me to tell you your name? He said, it doesn't matter, you will die anyway. All of the maids were shocked, and one of them asked, what the hell is going on? After some time, Orion opened her eyes. Her father asked, have you regained consciousness? She said, Dad, when did you come back? Her father said, I am so sorry, I don't seem to care about you lately. With a sad face he said, this rich dad did not even know that a colored man had broken into your room. After saying this, she started to worrying about the slave. She rushed towards the room. Cassadine said to Orion that you must be tired of not being able to sleep well. You slept on that man's chest. She smiled and explained him all of the story. Cassadine said, if my sister says that's it. She said, that's it. She asked, what is your name? The slave replied, my name is Toll. She said, when you got to my palace you looked so bad. Could you tell me what the hell happened to you? He said, I'm sorry, I don't remember anything. She was thinking that if the sedatives affect Toll's memory. He replied, someone had painted my memories in black. Or as if they were cut off. Orion said, it's okay even if it's something small. Tell me what you remember. After a thought he said, indeed. Before I lose my burden for the last time, I remember hearing this. Someone said we need more blood. After hearing that he fainted. He said, I know this may sound silly, but this person must have cut out of my tongue. After I regained my senses, my tongue had already been cut off, so what the hell happened? I could not say it properly because I don't know. Orion said, do you remember who was the person who cut out your tongue? He replied, my eyes were covered with a bandage, so I don't know. His voice was raspy and clearly male. It sounded like an old man. A strong smell of blood also emanated from him. She said, more blood, and started to think about an old man who was able to tear out a tongue without being killed. She came to a conclusion and thought it must be Kindle Butler, the closest person to Damien, who has been supporting him since he was a child. It must be that old man who got rid of my body. I still don't know anything about this. She said, it must be difficult for you to remember this, but thank you to tell me. She came close to him and said this would not happen again. Now stay in the palace and rest. With a bright smile she said, I will bring you new clothes, so wait a little. Toll replied, I don't want to bother you anymore. For me, I'm just a slave. She said, you are not going out like this, are you? With a blushy face he covered his body. She said, follow the assistant and he will take you to your room. With a shivering body he stood up and said thanks. She looked towards Cassadine and said, you should go too. After hearing this he fiercely go away from her. She was trying to stop him, but he didn't listen. She thought, what happened? After some time, in a low voice, Orion's father said, my daughter, I can't leave you with Cassadine. And even if that were a case, who the hell is that slave who entered the palace? She apologized to him. He said, we can't get that slave out because he's the size of a door, right? And his father is already trapped with Cassadine. He told her that he heard Cassadine being escorted to the imperial palace, that it said that our family hides an old man. There is so much noise everywhere. It is not surprising that Cassadine is a former slave. But I can't believe you took on another slave. She said, don't worry, Dad, it will soon be sent to His Highness the Prince. He asked, what are you talking about? Why slave to His Highness? She said, in fact, at the banquet a friend of mine asked me to give him a present. I also know His Majesty, so I wanted to give the slave to him. He asked to meet him. She said, my father was not present during the poisoning attempt, so I treated him. When he recovered he personally visited our palace. Her father said His Highness the Prince came here. Then this invitation should be for you. She held the invitation and said it is an invitation to the imperial banquet. In her mind she was thinking that I thought writing would be easy. But with writing all I can say is, because of the lawsuit with the Grand Duke, time period family would lose its prestige. It's time to show that His Highness the Crown Prince is fair and well. So I will bring it to you once the banquet is over. and the imperial family has settled down. With a smile she said. Because of the lawsuit filed with the Grand Duke, the imperial family will lose face, so as not to lose a little bit of truth about Damien. In the night she was eating her dinner while Cassadine was emitting a very different aura. She asked what happened. But then she thought that I'd better pretend that there is nothing wrong. But then suddenly Cassadine stood up and said, "You need a slave in the bedroom." She thought, what did he say? She said, "What?" He said, "If you need a slave for a bedroom, you should have told me. Even if you look at me as a dirty man, I'm sure of my success." She said, "Do you think about what you are saying?" He replied, "I am very rational, so do not bring another person." She was thinking, how can you say that directly? She stood up and moved her hands towards his cheeks. She said she didn't like that. The hell are you talking about? What is your criteria for determining who is filthy? Do not talk to me as if you were to. And when she was thinking that she was the one who tried to take advantage of Cassadine's slavery, so utter these words without hesitation at time. When Cassadine lived like a tool instead of a human is still spending. At this rate I'm no different from Damien. She said, "If I kiss you will I be dirty?" And then she kissed him on his forehead. He grabbed her hand and said, "If you are dirty, everything in this world will be dirty." She replied, "I will repeat myself, never underestimate yourself. You are the most noble person ever." She thought that he is like a hawk with broken wings. He could not take any more wounds. "So if I will be your nest," Cassadine said, "I was lying when I said I hated you, from the moment we met so far. I never hated you, not for a moment." He looked towards her in a very attractive way. He was about to say something, but then he stopped. After that Cassadine did not say anything. On next day, Orion was thinking that he did not say it. So I did not ask either. In order not to do what Damien did to me, she thought I must go back to my place. After some time Damien arrived. She said, "I have been waiting for you, Duke." Both of them were sitting on the chairs. She said, "I heard you were released. Why did not you tell me? I was worried about your condition while in prison." With a smile he said, "How could that be possible? I have been busy preparing for the lawsuit." She replied, "I did not mean anything bad, Duke." She was holding his hand and said, "I am glad to see you again." And at the time she checked his condition, she found that as expected he has a severe heart condition. He was hiding his chronic disease. There is a time where his seizure happened frequent enough to make him collapse in front of me. I am supposed to treat it around this time. I have heard about the cure for the condition. One of the many causes of his seizures is emotional agitation such as anger and excitement. She said, "You did not get an invitation from the Crown Prince, did you? I'm going to deliver the slave to him at this party. I want to let you know about it, so why don't you go with me?" Damien said, "That's a good idea." She said, "All right, see you again soon." And then she left his palace. Damien butler came and gave him some document. Damien laughed and said, "It's funny." He was reading a document. It was a slave selling certificate in which Orion bought a slave for 5 billion. At the palace, Toll came towards her and asked, "Are you home?" She said, "I'm back, Toll, and the cloth is very suitable for you. Do you like it?" He replied, "Of course, the size is just right. I can't believe you are treating a slave like me so generously." With a smiley face he said, "Thank you very much." She said, "Come to think of it, I have something important to tell you. Do you have time?" And after that they were both sitting on the sofa. She said, "I wanted you to come with me to the royal banquet in a few days. But then you will run into the Archduke who help you like this. Are you going to be okay?" With a joyful face he said, "Of course, I really wanted to return the favor." When she leaves the room, Cassadine asked, "Are you going to the banquet?" She found Cassadine was standing there. He said, "I should like you to take me to the party." She replied, "You know I can't." He came close to her and said, "I would not cause any trouble. I will be quiet and would not do anything, so please take me with you." She was thinking about the reason she can't take Cassadine to the banquet is because he thinks his real enemy is the Crown Prince. She really want to trust him. She said, "If I take you with me, will you tell me the things you are hiding from me?" She said, "I will tell you my secret too." After hearing this he stopped talking. She said, "I'm not forcing you if you don't want to talk. I will be going to the banquet by myself." In her mind she was thinking the feeling that you can't easily tell others, she can fully understand it. But the choice is yours. At the evening she was leaving for the palace. Sasha was saying, "Take care, lady. I'm sure you will be the most beautiful woman at the party today." Orion then thanked him. Sasha asked, "Cassadine is not going with you this time?" She said yes, he is not going. But then suddenly Cassadine rushed towards the chariot. He said, "Wait for me." He asked, "Can I still join you?" With a smile she said, "Okay, come in." At the party Cassadine said, "There are so many people compared to the last birthday party." Orion was thinking that did he invite all the novels in the empire? Except for one person, and then Damien also came. He said, "Lady Circia." She turned back. He said, "I could see the young lady from afar. So today would you give me the honor of escorting you, lady?" One of the guests were started to talk that they heard the Duke suing the royal family. So why is he coming to this banquet? Is he the Lady Circia acquaintance? She said, "Of course, Grand Duke." But then Cassadine grabbed her hand and said, "Excuse me, my sister already promised to me to be my partner." Damien said, "I think I have met you at last birthday party." Orion was thinking that you said you should be quiet and would not do anything. With a bright smile he said, "Don't tell me you forgot your promise with me." Damien asked, "Are you the young lady brother?" Cassadine asked, "Do you remember me?" He replied, "Of course, you have purple eyes that are hard to be forget. I think this was our third time meeting, and come to think of it, you always coming together with the young lady." Both of them remembered the scene when Damien was in the prison, and Orion came to meet him. At that time he said, "I think I have seen you before," while looking at the guard. Orion was thinking that he is such a surprising person. She said, "This is the second time the Grand Duke meeting my brother." Damien asked, "Are you sure about that young lady?" "I think I have seen your brother somewhere." She said, "What are you talking about?" "I think you are mistaking him for someone else." Damien said, "Is he the brother who deceives his sister?" "The young lady supposed to accompany me today. I want you to let me escort the lady." Cassadine said, "If my sister don't want to, I would not let go of her hand." Damien said, "You must be in trouble, young lady." And he come towards her. He said, "It's so arrogant of you to treat something like slavery as undignified things." After hearing this, Orion was shocked and Cassadine became serious. Damien came close to her and said, "It is not good to be kind to slaves." After hearing this she moved back from him. She said, "Oh my God, do you insult my brother? How dare you do that?" Someone said that the prince has arrived. Everyone started to salute him and said, "We salute the crown prince. Thanks for inviting us to your party." With a bright smile the prince speak Orion's name. She also looked towards him. He came close to her and said, "You came to my party." She replied, "How can I refuse your invitation?" He smiled and said, "Yes, you can't." The prince noticed that someone is standing beside her. He looked towards that person and Damien said, "I'm so happy to see you." The prince replied, "I don't remember inviting you, Duke." The Duke said, "Since you mistreated me without proof, should not I come here?" He said, "The moment I filed my case against the emperor." The prince showed his character. All of the guests at the party were looking at them very shockingly. Damien said, "If the imperial family trust me, your majesty doesn't do that." In the meantime Cassadine grabbed Orion's hand and said, "Prince and Duke, you should not do that here. Many people are looking at us." The prince said, "The Archduke's son is here too. I see a lot of desirable people here." With a cute face Orion said, "Even if he was my brother." The prince said, "I can ignore it because of you. But why are you still holding her hands?" Cassadine replied, "Because she will be my partner today. I will not let her hand, if that will not annoy her." After seeing both of them the prince said, "I have been feeling the same as the last time. You don't look at Sarah as her brother. I think you see her as your girlfriend. Because if I have a sister I will not look at her like that, as you did with Sarah." Orion was shocked, and she suddenly came close to the prince. She said, "Can I be your partner on this night, your majesty?" After hearing this the prince laughed very loudly. Orion was thinking, that is he nuts? What was this idiot going to say in front of everyone at the party? The prince said, "Your reaction always exceeds my expectation. It makes me crazy." With a blushy and awkward face, she was thinking that I can't believe I'm listening to these idiot shit. The prince said, "When it comes to dancing, it is as usually the man who asks for it." He forwarded his hand towards her and asked, "Sarah, can you be my partner?" On the other side Cassadine was also holding her hand. He said he was also asking to be her partner. With sparkling eyes he looked her In response, Orion said, "Don't worry." Prince said, "Before we start, I want to ask the person whom I don't invite to leave now." But Damien replied, "Sorry, I can't leave. I can't leave because I have to deal with Miss Sarah." He said, "Isn't it you want Majesty to witness it?" With a smile she said, "Sure," and then she invited the slave Toll. He came forward and then she introduced him that this is the slave. She told him that Damien was going to send him as a birthday gift to the Crown Prince. "Before I tell you why he is with me, I want to ensure my safety. I fear from Duke if he knows the whole truth." The Duke was shocked, and in an angry voice he asked, "Why do you think I will hurt you?" And he shouted that she's playing tricks on me. The prince said, "I don't care about your opinion. You are known in the Empire as a super elite knight. It would not be difficult for you to assassinate someone." In an angry way the Duke said, "You are so impudent, how can you insult me like that in front of people? I did not deserve to be prisoned in the first place. But I'm treated like this." The prince said, "In the first place you should have behaved better. If what you said was true, she would not be asking for help now." The prince said, "I promise you will be safe." She was thinking that's what I would be able to handle it. I had made Duke to reach a limit so quickly. He asked, "Tell me, Sarah, what happened?" She was thinking that it is not a good result for me. My revenge just appeared. She said, "I adore the Duke, so I used to visit him in prison." After hearing this, both of them were shocked. She said, "The Duke is trying to take advantage of my friendship with the Crown Prince. So he has tried to send this man to help him escape from prison." After hearing this, the Duke started to came forward and said, "Don't believe Her Majesty." But the prince stopped him. He said, "Despite the suspicious circumstances, I decided to release him because there was no evidence, and now you accuse him. Why are you telling me that at this particular time?" She said, "It's hard to explain this. I have told you of my feelings for that, but I can't make him explore the benefits of our friendship. The reason for this is that he does not like his status and always aspire to the status of others. No one would dare to do that. No one else but you." In an angry way Damien shouted her name. But then suddenly Cassadine came forward and said, "Stay away from my sister." In a moment Damien came forward and held Cassadine close. He said, "You are so brave. How dare you meddle in my affairs? You are just a slave, used to crawling in the gladiatorial arenas." After hearing that he was a slave, all of the guests at the party were started talking about him. Cassadine removed Damien's hand from his clothes and said, "The Duke is really a great man. He seems to know me well. And he also filed a lawsuit. You claim integrity even though you are the suspect in the poisoning case? However, you are still trying to brag." Cassadine smiled and said, "I will not do things like that." Damien was very angry and suddenly, he started to feel pain from his heart disease. He sit on the ground. Someone asked, "What is wrong with you, Duke?" Orion smiled because she knows what is happening to him. Orion rushed towards him and asked, "Is there anything wrong with you, Duke? You look pale, are you alright? Is there something wrong with your heart?" In an angry way he looked towards her. All of the guests were talking about the disease. The prince asked, "What is wrong with you, Duke?" Orion said he clutches his chest, called the doctor now. But Damien said, "No, I'm fine. Don't worry, please call my servant." She looked at Toll and said, "Help me." Damien said, "This is not necessary." Toll came close to him and asked, "Are you okay, former sir?" After hearing that he can speak, Damien was shocked. Toll said, "This is my first time meeting you, right, Duke Damien?" Damien asked, "How can you speak?" But then his chest again started to hurt very badly. Orion said, "I know who can heal you." Damien said, "I'm good, I don't need that." And then he fell on the ground unconsciously. After some time Orion was standing on the garden, and she looked back and found that Your Majesty is there. She said, "You must have put a lot of effort into organizing this party. I'm sorry because it ended this way. I can't continue the party after the Duke collapses." The prince said, "This will create a lot of rumors and this is not a good time for that. But why do you ask me to stay?" She said, "Looks like you want to leave quickly." The prince replied, "Basically I wanted us to enjoy the place and then tell you. No one can access here unless he is from the royal family." He asked, "Don't you want to enjoy watching this garden? Do you want to see the rare flower? There are many in this garden." She said, "No, my brother is waiting for me." He said, "You should more think about your brother's strange behavior." He came close to her and said, "Did you know I organized this party just for you?" She asked, "What did you say?" "There was something strange about my brother." The prince said, "No, but you have to be careful." She said, "I was very upset with you when you said that my brother looked at me strangely." The prince replied, "I was just telling the truth." "What's wrong with that?" He said, "I should be helpless if you looked at me like that. It was hard to throw a banquet like that." Archduke Damien hid his illness for a long time. There seemed to be no improvement in his health. Earlier the Damien's servant said that it is just a disease. That was a fever. We must not trouble His Majesty with it. The Duke's servant's loyalty is incredible. He did everything about his illness. The prince said, "If you have a disease, why don't you say that to others?" "I can't understand that. Why did he decide to give a slave as a gift?" In her mind, Orion was thinking that this is the reaction I expected from you. I know I had to discuss it with the crown prince. Even though Cassadine was a slave, the prince was generous enough to make him his assistant. But dukes end a toll in this case. I don't think things will be good for him. She thinks he will suffer a lot because of that. It is really unfortunate that there is no one you can resort to. And she knows this feeling. She looked towards him and said, "What are you going to do, prince, about that slave?" He replied, "I don't care about him. I can return it to Duke." Orion said, "He's a good man, I want to take it if you don't have a problem." He replied, "It was a gift sent to me. But you can do whatever you want. We should observe the Duke's reaction. I can't trust him, but don't worry. I will make sure about your safety." Orion laughed and thanked him. She was thinking that she can't let Toll return to Damien. It is like sending him to hell. But if she do that, she will break her promise to her father. And then suddenly someone said, "My sister, you are here." It was Cassadine. The prince said, "I did not want your brother to come. How can you come here? Only the royal family can pass." Cassadine said, "I'm here for my sister. It had been a long time, so I was worried about her." He said, "Sister, it's too late now, let's go home." The prince said, "You love your sister very much?" He asked, "Will you still love her like this, even if she marries someone?" After hearing this, Cassadine stopped and looked back towards the prince. He replied, "That will not happen." And then he held her close to him and said, "Because she will be with me forever. She will not marry anyone, right, my sister?" He again asked. She said, "Yes, that's right." The prince said she took much time to respond. "You are putting too much pressure on her." She looked towards the Majesty and said, "Your Majesty, I will leave now. We will see each other later." The prince said, "It looks like you are really planning to leave." She said, "Yes, can I come again to the castle?" The prince said, "No, you are always welcome here." And then both of them started to leave. Orion asked, "Why did you look at me like that way?" He said, "How do you think I look at you?" She looked towards him. But then suddenly Cassadine grabbed her in his arms and started to hug her. He said, "You are my sister, the only person I have in this world." Cassadine was thinking that I can hear the sound of your heartbeat. I like this sound. He wondered that if she really sees him as her brother, he want to ask her about this. But after hearing her answer, it will be the end of everything. After some time, both of them reached to the palace. Orion was seeing a dream in which Damien's servant was burning her, and there was fire everywhere in the palace. Everyone is shouting for help, and the Imperial Knight Commander has rebelled. All of the person are begging to let them live. His Majesty has already passed away. Everyone thinking that has heaven really abandoned them? The old sun has completely fallen. But at last the true sun will rise, and it was Cassadine. And then Orion woke up from her dream. There was a sweat all over her body. She was thinking, was it a dream? But then she found Cassadine was standing there. He asked, "Sister, why are you sweating so much? Did you have a nightmare?" She replied, "Yes, I have a nightmare." He put his hand on her cheek and said, "Do not worry, I'm here." He kissed her on the forehead and said, "I have been by your side the whole time." She asked, "When did we arrive at the mansion?" He replied, "It has not been long. My sister was fast asleep, so I did not want to wake you up. So please forgive me for carrying you to your room without permission." She said, "It's okay, yesterday I was asleep. So how did you untie my hair and change my clothes?" But then she realized with the blushy face. She said, "You were with me the whole time." He replied, "No, I was not. I was out while Sasha was changing your clothes." With the relief sound she said, "I see." He said, "Sister, don't you trust me?" She replied, "I believe in you." Cassadine also said so do I. She was thinking that it should be lying if I said that. Cassadine's smile did not make me weak. But I will have to clear about what needs to be said. She said, I'm saying this because I trust you. Do you remember the conversation we had? That you were supposed to tell me the things you were hiding from me. If you went to the banquet, and I said I also have something to say to you, Cassadine replied, of course I remember. With a serious look he said, where should I start our conversation? He said there was a kingdom called Hiran. The king was a pacifist. He advocated a neutral country. Due to weak military power and tactics, shall we start by saying that we had no choice but to collapse due to the invasion of a powerful country? Or maybe all the royal blood relatives are dead. Let's start by saying that only the powerless crown prince has survived. He said the crown prince lost everything and became a slave. The only reason why I could not let go of this filthy life that was not worth living, there was only just one reason. In her mind Orion was thinking that the reason is revenge. Cassadine said, thus come that destroyed Hiran lives in this empire. I want to kill them all and tear them apart. I wanted to make them feel the pain I felt. Orion said, Cassadine, I have something to tell you about that. She said, actually my family has been around for generations, and we have maintained a close relationship with the imperial family and are protected by them. And as mentioned at the banquet, the Duke is aiming for the throne, in preparation for the threat the Archduke will bring to our family, so I needed more information about the Grand Duke. Everything I said about loving him was a lie. Cassadine asked, so you approached the Grand Duke for a reason? While you were visiting him in prison? She said, there is something I found out in the process. His father was the main culprit who brought destruction to Hiran. There was a great prophet in the civil empire who is now deceased. When he made a prophecy that a great king would be born in Hiran, the Duke family that was aiming for the throne felt threatened, and it became a good justification for conquest. After hearing this, Cassadine became very serious, and he said, I see. Orion told him that the man who trampled your kingdom is already dead. Damien is the only bloodline. I know that doesn't change what this empire has done. And then she stopped talking. In her mind she was thinking that it's not that I don't understand how Cassadine feels. Rather, I was glad that we had the same enemy. I was glad that he decided to be honest with me about everything. But why am I so afraid of hearing Cassadine's answer? She was worried about what she saw in her dream. She was calming herself by saying that it's just a nightmare. But why do I keep thinking about that dream? And then Cassadine put his hand on her hand and said, one day when I came to my sister's room early in the morning, you treated my scar, and I was not happy at all. In a life full of resentment and hatred towards this country, I was confused and torn when you kept twisting your way inside my heart. At the time I was thinking that if I do this, you would not touch me anymore, but since I have done this, you will be definitely give up on me. I kept being stubborn. But even though you knew it, you embraced me, sister. With a bright smile he said, it seems like what I want to achieve has changed. Now I have another reason to live. He sit on her knees and said, because you have brought me out of hell where there was no light. After hearing this, Orion started to cry and both of them started to hug each other. He said, you are my salvation. On the other side at Damien Mansion, his servant was asking that, are you okay, master? What on earth happened at the banquet hall? Did not you hide it well? Damien said, a lot of things happened. He smiled and said, Orion, she's completely crazy. The lawsuit against the imperial family should be withdrawn. In a shocking way the servant asked, what are you saying? Damien was holding a potion bottle and said, because my position became very unstable. I am in trouble if there is a rumor that I am rebelling against the imperial family. Since when did the Sertian family have a close relationship with the imperial family? The servant said, Count Sertia frequently visit the imperial family. In particular, the daughter often visited with the count even before her debutante. Because there were rumors that she had been designated as the crown princess at that time, he was wondering that why on earth would a mere count's daughter be in and out of the imperial family. But he thought about this and said, no, there might be a reason. Is there something that comes to your mind? Damien stood up and said, the woman said she knew a doctor who could cure an illness or any wound. It is either a family-level connections or it could be a talent discovered by the Count family. His servant said, we researched every way to cure your heart disease. If there is such a person, there is no way we would not know about it. Damien said, I saw that the slave who was sent to the count had his tongue intact. He even spoke perfectly, as if it was never been cut. The servant was shocked. Damien said, I need to meet that woman again. On the next day, Toll was sitting on the sofa and he was thinking that it's relaxing. Comfortable clothes and a spacious warm room. Quality meals are served generously. I don't have long memories of being a slave, but I know it's not the usual treatment. On the last night, Miss Orion said thanks for helping me. And at that time that's what she said. On the other hand, all I did was speak with the Duke. He was wondering, did that really help? And how long can I stay here? And after leaving you, will I become a slave to the imperial family, or perhaps of the Duke? But then suddenly someone opened that door. Toll asked, who are you? And then he found it was Mr. Cassadine. He stood up and said, is something the matter, Mr. Cassadine? Why did you came here to see me and to come alone? In a serious way, Cassadine said, I will be the one to ask questions and you will be answering them. Cassadine said, you must have clearly seen Duke Damien threaten my sister at the banquet. Cassadine kicked on the sofa. He said, how am I supposed to trust you if you keep your lips sealed about what happened in the middle of that night? So tell me the truth. Toll said, I have lost my memory. If I can, I should love remember it to so I can be of help you. Orion has given me more than what I deserve. But after hearing this in an angry way, Cassadine grabbed his neck and said, don't say my sister's name recklessly. And then suddenly Orion opened the door and asked, what are you doing? On the other side, Damien was looking at the portrait of his father in him. He remembered when his father said, this father of yours have failed. You must ascend to the throne. The only one worthy of that position is you. Damien was thinking that of course that's true, but before that, if we don't do something about this damn heart disease, I should love to rip it off if I could. Damien's servant came and said, yes, master. Damien said, did you get the decent ones? The servant replied, I have carefully selected only healthy ones. And master, the slave we sent still remains at the count's house. I used someone to check quietly. They found that he was able to walk around with his tongue and body intact. It appears that she left without giving any tranquilizers. It's amazing that such a beast can be treated without medicine, so I have a bad feeling about this, master. It is dangerous for a slave to fall into that woman's hand. It's also suspicious that the unidentified person who the detective could not find is in the possession of the count. It's as advisable to refrain contacting that woman immediately. Damien said, at best he is just a servant beast taken good care of by a noble woman. It's disappointing to see you rely on your instincts without any proper evidence. He ordered him to dispose the materials quietly without posing any trouble. The servant said, yes, master, I will do as you say. And on the other side, Orion and Toll was sitting on the chair. Orion asked what happened with Cassadine. Tell me the truth. Toll hesitated and said nothing happened. Orion said, I'm not blaming you, answer me at all. He said, actually I confirmed that it was true that I had lost the memories. Cassadine's feelings are completely understandable. I would be suspicious if a slave sent such a scary person like an uninvited guest, even though you are not related by blood. But you are siblings who get along better than anyone else. He said, because of me I'm afraid your sibling love may be shaken. I'm just a slave who will soon leave. Orion asked, Toll, you want to stay here? After hearing this he was shocked and said, pardon, how could I? Orion said, you must have been very anxious during this time. I have no intention of sending you back to the Duke. His Majesty the Crown Prince has already given permission. Toll started to cry and said, is that really okay? As much as I could tell, I will definitely return the favor. And then he thanked her. After some time Orion came out in the garden. While touching the rose she said, there you are, Cassadine. Cassadine asked, you were trying to bring that guy in. Am I not enough? She said, you know that's not the problem. He said, sister, you once told me you loved me. Why don't you say that these days? Orion was thinking about that. She realized it's too late, the weight of those words. And then suddenly Cassadine came very close to her. Orion said, isn't it something that lovers would do, not siblings? Cassadine said, after all, we are not blood related. He was looking at her eyes and said, not even once. I never thought of you as a family. He was holding her hand and found that her finger was pierced by rose. He said, you have been pierced by rose thorn. He started to lick her finger. After that she pushed him away and said, "Stop that." In her mind she was thinking that I am angry, but to whom? To Cassidy, who ruined the family relationship? She had worked so hard to maintain it even on the surface. To her who hesitated to purchase him away even for a moment. But either way, what's the point? This strange singing's play have already completely ended. Cassidy said, "I have liked you. From the moment I made eye contact with you at the bloody gladiatorial arena. I tried to draw a line so as not to let others into my heart, but your touch, your sweet smile. I've come to realize how much they mean to me." Cassidy was standing very close to Orion. She asked, "What do you want?" He replied, "I will become a sword, just only for you," and then he started to touch her lips and said, "But the thing is, I want you to only look at me." She was totally shocked after hearing this and said, "Cassidy, you are absolutely insane." She pushed him away and shouted, "I didn't ask you to see me as your younger sister, it was our promise. And you should not have said that. We are siblings who went through formal introductory procedures, and I'm just your sister." She was about to say something, but then she stopped. She was thinking that, "Your smile is as beautiful as the sunlight. I already knew it that this relationship was formed for revenge, but whenever I am close to you I feel happy." She was thinking that, "I literally didn't know when did I start shedding tears sincerely in front of you." And then at the current time she was looking on the ground, and was about to say something. But then suddenly he said, "Get me out of the family." Orion was shocked after hearing this. She asked, "What? Why are you saying this?" He asked, "Don't you think I'm weird? If you don't like me you can expel me." In a worried state Orion asked, "Anything like this all of a sudden? Want me to kick you out?" He replied, "I don't want to be your weakness." And then with a serious look he said, "Please throw me out." On the other side Orion's father was very angry after reading something. He pushed down the newspaper on the table and shouted, "It's outrageous. Who on earth dares to publish an article like this?" In the article it was written that Cassidy is not Count's son, but a gladiator slave. The maids were also talking about this. They were saying, "Did you hear the news? There is an article about Cassidy in the newspaper, and Count is very angry." Another maid said, "Of course, the prestige of the family is at stake." Someone asked, "What is young lady doing?" One of the maid looked towards the door and said, "First we have to close the door and lock it, then we can talk about this after closing the door." She told them that the lady has not come out of her room since yesterday. In the room she was sitting alone on the chair, and in a tensed and worried state she was thinking that, "What shall I do? I could not give Cassidy any answer. Even I don't know what I want, and what things go wrong." She was thinking that, like paint spreading in water, I wish for me to slowly soak into you. But ironically I am gradually immersing myself in Cassidy, and why did not I know about this? She was touching her feet and wondering that, what kind of relationship do we have? I never thought about it. But then suddenly someone knocked on the door and said, "Miss, I'm sorry for interrupting you while you were taking a rest, but the Lord asked you to join him for a cup of tea." Orion was sitting silently and not saying anything. The maid said, "I'm sure he has something to say," so Orion put down her feet and replied, "I will be right there." On the outside in the garden, both Orion and her father was sitting together. Her father said, "What, His Highness? The Crown Prince gave you that big guy toll." Orion replied, "I promised to send him soon, but I'm sorry it ended up like this. And it's all because of the incident that occurred at the Imperial banquet, and now he had nowhere to go, so please allow him to stay in the mansion." After hearing this with a serious look her father asked, "Are you not going to let him in?" She said, "Of course, it's not like that at all." He asked, "So you are not even going to let him be a palace guard, but just keep him in a mansion as a slave, is that right?" She replied, "Yes." After hearing this her father took a deep breath and said, "I will allow it again. With a smile, Orion said, I can't believe you will allow something like that again. Her father asked, you know, once is difficult, would not twice be even harder. But I know you are stubborn when you set your mind to something. Orion looked at the tea and said, sorry, father. He said, I did not know I would make such a fuss about it. I did not think he should be able to get away with it, because this guy really stands out. At first, every little thing about Cassidy bothered me. When I looked at him, I thought, if I could, I would have kicked him out right away. But when our eyes met each other, suddenly Cassidy came towards me and said, Count, I will also help you a little. At that time I was a bit surprised. And the more I saw him, the more I thought he was not just an ordinary slave. He has got a lot of dignity. He was more than capable of reading and writing. And even he can thoroughly review and improve the documents in one day, which I would have spent days looking at. He have got a great skill. Firstly, I was shocked at that because a person who lived as a slave can figure out the financial status of a count with a few documents. It is hard to be naturally elegant. I thought he might have been sold by a fallen nobleman from another country. With a sweaty face, Orion was looking downward, and she was thinking that, in the end, my father noticed too. But it's normal because I also felt something strange from the first day I met him. But I wonder when my father finds out about Cassidy's origin, at that time, will you sympathize with him or try to kick him out? I don't know. Her father closed his eyes and said, Actually, I have something to tell you, Orion. He said, this morning Cassidy came to see me and asked me to throw him out. He said he could not cause any more trouble to our family because of this incident. Her father gave her a letter. AMD said, Cassidy asked me to give you that letter. She took the letter and started to read it and asked, Father, what did you say? Her father said, I refuse, saying, why are you telling me this now? I will handle it well on my own, so there is no need for that. The count looked at the bird who was sitting on the tree branch and said, in his own word he said, it was his job to put an end to this matter. He wanted to repay the favor he owed you. Her father said, Cassidy is no longer here, he left. Orion was shocked after hearing this. On the other side at night someone was beating Damien's butler. The butler was sitting down on his knees and he was unable to move. The guy who beat him take out something from the servant's cloth, and the guy is none other than Cassidy. He opened the bottle cap and smelt it. After smelling it he realized something and said, oh, so it is true. He remembered the earlier memory when Toll said, I remember hearing this, that more blood is needed. Cassidy poured out the fluid from the bottle, and the fluid is none other than blood. The blood came out from the bottle. Cassidy said that guy did not lie to us. At the palace Orion was looking at the letter, and with shivering hand she asked, did he really leave us? The count touched her hand and said, Orion, my daughter, there is a white bird living in a tree near my office, but it flew away sooner than expected. But when the season changes it returns to that place again. It's adorable to even hear him chirp so loudly that I could hear him from my office. I came to feel some affection for him. And do you know what it reminds me of? It's Cassidy, who reminds me of that bird. He closed his eyes and said, if I am honest, at first I thought him being with us was unfortunate. But very soon I realized that I did not dislike him. He only called me father in front of you. But it was different when it was just the two of us alone. Cassidy always respected me. He always bowed in front of me, and when I looked at him I was feeling angry. I said, how dare a slave like you seduce and take advantage of my sweet daughter? At the current time, he said, at first I was really furious. But do you know what his reply was to me back then? At that time he said, thank you. I did not know that the count would even acknowledge me first, despite my being just a slave. After hearing that reply I was shocked, so I said, do you have no pride? I have just insulted you. Cassidan replied, "How could I have pride when I am not in a position to have it?" He smiled while looking at him and said, "I'm just so happy to be able to be around my sister." Orion was thinking that, so that's what happened. She was thinking that earlier. I was wondering what he was thinking when he would stand next to me. Perhaps everything that happened was a lie. Earlier Cassidan told her that I wonder if you are going to hate me when you find out about my true self. She tightened her fist and clenching her clothes. She was thinking that I just wanted to know his past, but I did not force him to tell me anything. She was totally lost in these thoughts. But then suddenly she heard a voice of her father. He came close to her and sat down on his knees. He was holding her hand and said, "Orion, don't worry, this was Cassidan's choice, but he will be back. And I know this because I know his weakness. He was the one who left you this letter, so you have to trust him." In the letter he wrote, "Forgive me for leaving without saying anything. I will definitely come back to you when I have organized everything." Her father said, "So don't allow yourself to be saddened because of this." And at the same time, at the Duchy of the North, Damien was sitting on a sofa. He said, "I did not expect you to come to see me," and it was Cassidan who was sitting in front of him. Damien said, "I can't believe that, Kindle. My butler's disappearance was the result of the Count's adopted slave." Cassidan took out the specs of that butler and put it down on the table. "It was covered in blood," Damien said. "How dare you turn your back on the duchy?" Cassidan replied, "This is an important matter, Your Excellency. It no longer has anything to do with the Count or his family, as I was recently officially removed from their records." With a smile, Damien asked, "Were you kicked out?" "But that's a fitting end for a slave who was extremely lucky." In a relaxed tone, Cassidan said, "It's all thanks to you, Your Excellency." With a sharp look, Damien looked at him and asked, "So are you going to take revenge on me?" With the same sharp look, Cassidan looked at him and said, "I have come to offer you a deal." After hearing this from a slave, Damien laughed, but then with an anger he asked, "How dare a slave offer me a deal?" He looked down on him and said, "You must have gone crazy enough to want to die, you dirty slave. It was a big mistake to think that I was going to deal with you just for a simple butler. But it seems that not only were you born dirty, but you are also foolish. Could it be that you became a gladiator because you were lower class? Because I heard you played pretty dirty. You're just a lowly slave who should be eliminated." Cassidan was listening all of this very seriously, and then he said, "Well, there is something," and then he took out the bottle which he took from the butler, and said, "Well, I had to sell my body to live." After saying this he smiled and said, "But it is not worse to have to drink blood, the blood of commoners, to live yourself." Damien was shocked after seeing the bottle. He was thinking that how did he find out about this? Cassidan said, "The butler carried many of these bottles, and I noticed it when you collapsed with chest pain. But you refused the help of the royal physician, and sought only for your butler." Damien laughed and asked, "Do you think this just because of what he gave me at that time? My condition has been handled by Kindle for a long time, and that's why I was looking for him." While touching the bottle, Cassidan said, "For a fairly old butler, he had a lot of work to do to serve his master, like to handle his drugs. He was your right-hand man, and he took care of everything. It was easy to get close to him as he was looking for new servants for the Duke. Young, healthy people, without a history of medical conditions, and had no connection to anyone. But still, it seems that the Duke has few servants. I wonder where the rest have disappeared to." After hearing all of this, Damien became angry. He took out his sword and pointed it towards Cassidan's neck. While pointing it, he shouted, "How dare a common slave threaten me?" But Cassidan is totally relaxed even in this situation. In the past, Damien pointed the sword at one of the renowned physician and said, "I don't have much patience. I already know that this heart disease was able to improve significantly, so I will give you a hefty reward if you tell me about the cure. But why are you hesitating? Tell me, otherwise we will have no choice but to finish you off." The physician came into fear, and in a shivering voice he said, "I will tell you, but please don't tell anyone else. For the cure you must drink blood. That is the cure of this disease." The physician said, "While I was reviewing medical ingredients, I accidentally found a recipe made from human blood. That I confirmed that this was how you could reduce the pain." Damien said, "Only human blood has an effect in reducing pain. That's what you are saying, right? If that's the case, then we should experiment with your blood." The physician came into fear and shouted, "No, don't do this, please." And then at the current time, Damien attacked Cassidon to kill him. But Cassidon is also an experienced warrior, so he dodged it very easily. But that attack broke the bottle and pierced the robe of Cassidon. With a smiley face, Cassidon said, "Your Excellency, perhaps you should calm down. I have no intention of becoming your enemy. I will forget the secret you hide." Damien was surprised and said, "What?" Because after revealing such a secret, Cassidon can harm him in any way. But now he is saying he will forget about that secret. Cassidon came close to him and said, "I will send your butler back only if you do me a small favor." Damien was looking at him patiently and thinking that what the hell is this dirty slave doing? But then he realized something, that it is quite irritating, but he has a pretty sharp eye. He is also quite fast. He was able to avoid being touched by my sword with minimal effort. It would be helpful if my butler Kindle could give jobs to this guy. So Damien removed his sword and said, "Well, I will listen to the deal you have to propose to me." Cassidon said, "I hear that it will soon be the festival for the founding of the empire. I am participating in the fencing competition, and your excellency has never participated before, so please participate with me in the competition. My request is that you compete against me in the tournament. I think it would be good. Among all the events that are held during the anniversary of the founding of the Civil Empire, the public eagerly anticipates the tournament, which is organized by the emperor himself. Since weapons are allowed, there have been many deaths during the annual event. Origin of the participants are not important, and the winner receives a grand prize awarded by the emperor. In the case of commoners, they can even get the noble titles as well as riches and wealth." Damien was thinking that, "I have never participated in this event because I had no need or reason to enter into an event like this, but this is new." Damien asked, "My participation in the tournament, is that your only request? Does it matter if I lose?" Cassidon shook his head and said, "Your Excellence agrees to compete with me during the competition. That is more than sufficient for me. I don't want you to go easy on me, so please give it your best." On the next day at the mansion, Orion was sitting on the chair and looking at the letter given by Cassidon. She was thinking about him again and again, and don't doing anything else. But then suddenly something came into her mind, and she wear her robe. She said, "Sasha, get ready to go. There is a place I want us to go together." The maid said, "Yes, my lady, but right now?" Orion said, "There is someone I need to meet." She smiled while looking at Sasha and said, "I can't just stand here and wait. I have a lot of work to do. But before that, we need to bring someone else." The maid asked, "Who would that be, my lady?" Orion said, "That person is Tol. I'm going to brush my hair, so why don't you help him with his hair before we leave?" Tol was working outside. He was totally in sweat, and the maid were looking at him with a blushy face and a bright smile. One of the maids said, "Excuse me, you are very strong." He looked at them and said, "Thank you." Sasha was standing on the door and wondering that, why are they making such a fuss? She closed her eyes and said, "Told the lady is waiting for you." After hearing this with a smile, Toll said, "Yes, I will be right there." And while saying this, he came very close to Sasha. Sasha was a bit surprised due to this sudden closeness. She was looking away from him and said, "Before that, wait a minute." She was thinking that he is so much bigger than me, and then she told him, "You have to come with me." After a while he was sitting on the chair and Sasha was cutting his hair. She complimented him and said, "You have been helping out quite a bit inside the mansion." He replied, "Like I own Lady Orion my life, so I want to be of help here as much as I am able to." With a bright smile she said, "Of course, there is no one sweeter than our young lady. I was worried about her because these last few days she has seemed quite tired, but I am happy to see that she's looking a little more lively." Toll was looking at her and then Sasha said, "It's all done. How does it look? Is it better?" He touched his hair and said, "It's good, thank you, Sasha." With a blushy face Sasha was looking at him, but then suddenly someone opened the door, and it is Orion. She entered into the room. Sasha said, "My lady, we have finished getting ready." Orion complimented her and said, "You did a good job, and the chariot is already waiting for us, so let's go." Sasha asked, "By the way, who are you suddenly going to meet with today?" On the other side at the Imperial Palace, the prince, but also checking his fit, he was looking at the flower given by Orion. He was thinking that this flower Orion saved, eventually it was going to dry out. Earlier when I was a child, and Orion's mother died, her father came to the mansion and he was sitting in front of my mother, the Empress. At that time he said, "A person's mind cannot be cured like a bodily disease, Your Majesty. My wife passed away and I have only my daughter left who is the same age as the Crown Prince. So I know very well how it feels to be alone." The Empress said, "Please have someone check your mental state, because nowadays you are going through a critical phase of your life." The young prince was hearing all of this. He was standing outside of the door. And then they talked about our political marriage. The prince was thinking that my mother was not a person who desired this marriage. She felt that her heart was less important than the emperor's power. And I always remember my mother's face back then. At the current time, from behind of him his father the emperor came. He said, "Leon, why do you go out without telling anyone?" The prince replied, "What I do is not something Your Majesty cares about anyway. You are just too busy with political affairs." The emperor said, "I can't believe my only son is acting like this." The prince asked, "Why did not you have any concubines? Then you would have been able to have at least one child to whom you are grateful for." After hearing this his father became very angry and he shouted, "Leon, how dare you say that to me?" The prince glared at him and said, "Your marriage was not something you wanted, so what difference would it have made if you had a child with my mother or some concubine?" While he was walking away from him he said, "I'm not going to live like Your Majesty did." The emperor said, "I just want you to tell me where you are going." The prince stopped at the door and said, "I'm not going anywhere. I have a guest which is coming to meet me," and then he walked outside. After a while at the meeting place he saw Orion, and then suddenly his face bloomed like a flower. Orion looked at him with a smile and then, the maid was pouring the tea for both of them. The prince said, "I have been waiting for you." The prince asked, "You said you were coming back to the palace, but I did not hear anything from you, so I was planning to visit you." Orion said, "It is thanks to you that I am able to visit you without any issues." With a smile and glowing face he said, "You seem to be in good health." He asked, "Did something else happen?" Orion replied, "I am fine thanks to Your Majesty, thanks for your help. The guy you gave me, he has been able to adapt well and has been helping me with some work." The prince asked, "Do you mean that slave sent by the Archduke?" I am glad that he has been helpful to you. Orion looked downwards and said, actually, I would like to ask the prince for another favor. She made an eye contact and said, I was thinking of visiting the Archduke in the north. After hearing this, the prince asked, what? Why do you want my help to visit the Archduke? She replied, it's not a big deal, it's just that your majesty gave me permission to have him, but Toll is still a slave owned by the Archduke, according to his papers. So I would like to pay him a visit to make sure there will be no future issues with him. The prince said, I wonder if you really have to go in person. Damien has always been a rather dark person, but lately he's been particularly. After hearing this, Orion smiled and said, Your Majesty could guarantee my safety. That way I would not have to worry about anything. However, the request is quiet at the last minute, so I'm not expecting that you would be prepared. The prince leaned forward and said, That is what I was trying to say. Orion said, I had no intention of asking you for such a shameless favor. The prince was thinking about it while putting his hand on his face. And then he said, honestly, I would prefer it if I could go with you. But as much as I would like to, but I can't do it since I'm currently in a legal battle with the Archduke over the attempt of poisoning. Orion said, true, it is very likely that your visit will be seen as political. He said, yes, unfortunately this is not up to him. But then he tapped his finger on the table and said, however, you could prove that. The prince said, Orion, you could prove that the imperial family protects you. After hearing this, Orion smiled and thinking that, now we can finally leave, because everything is ready. After some time at the Duchy of North, the Archduke Damien was looking outside from the window. He became confused after seeing something. It was the imperial chariot. And the person who came out from it is none other than Orion. She was thinking that let's see if the fish takes the bait. Damien was flustered and confused after seeing her. And then Damien came down to greet them. She said, it's a pleasure to see you again, Archduke. He looked at them and asked, what brings you here with these imperial knights? It's a bit embarrassing that you have shown up unannounced. She looked towards the imperial knights and said, His Majesty sent them with me as my escorts. And I am not here to fight you. She looked towards Damien and asked, you know that, don't you? Damien paused for a moment and thinking that, I was actually planning to get in touch with this woman. But their action seems deliberate. Although she came on her own accord, she brought protection with her. I'm not sure what you are thinking. And then Orion asked, are you feeling better? He was thinking that she has no reason to feel sorry for me. I'm sure she has other reasons, but this opportunity is one I can't waste. And then he said, let's go inside and talk first. All of them entered into the palace. Orion and Damien were sitting in front of each other. She said, thank you for welcoming me here despite my coming unannounced. He said, it's nothing. There are many things we need to talk about. With a smile he asked, did not your younger brother come with you? She was looking at him and thinking that, don't you know that Cassadine is no longer part of our family? I was trying to find out if Cassadine had been in the Archduke's mansion. However, Damien doesn't seem to know where he is either, or he will not tell me. She closed her eyes and said, my younger brother went on a trip for a while. While touching the cup of tea, she said, I must admit, I was angry at your excellency for insulting my younger brother. But then I felt bad after seeing you suddenly collapse. But then she stopped talking and looked towards Toll and said, could you leave us alone for a moment? He leaned forward and said, I will stand by the door. Call me if you need anything. She replied, yes, thank you. And then he glared at Damien. Damien was also looking at him. When Toll was leaving, Damien said, both are just slaves. Looks like you have been able to tame that violent beast within him. She replied, he does this out of sheer gratitude for having all his wounds healed. He said, yes, I should like to hear more about that. So what is the real reason you came to visit me? And who is the doctor talented enough to give him back the tongue that was cut off? Orion looked at him very sharply and thinking that he fell for the bait. She replied that truth is, it's more than a doctor, he is a person who was born with healing powers. And what I am going to tell you now is very confidential information. The only people who are allowed to be healed are members of the royal family, that is the emperor and his family. Damien was a bit surprised after hearing this. He asked what? She said the existence of these healers should never be revealed with people outside the realm. Toll doesn't know how his wounds were healed either. And if I get caught talking to you about this, I could be punished by the royal family, so you must keep this a secret. After hearing this, he covered his face by his hand, and said external people. And then he was feeling the pain, but then he controlled it. In a serious look he said, if you are lying, you should better be prepared to take responsibility for the consequences. She said, in my position, I could not lie to you, because I can't stop thinking about your suffering from chronic disease. I can't guarantee you a cure, but this person was able to cure His Majesty when he was poisoned. Damien was a bit confused and surprised. He asked, does the lady know this person? In an impatient state he asked, tell me, who is this healer? She closed her eyes and said, that healer is me, Archduke. I cured Toll's severed tongue. Damien was shocked after hearing this. Orion was thinking that right now, Damien is desperate to find a cure for his heart disease. I cured him immediately in my past life, but I have no intention of making the same mistake again. I will leave your illness like this, and just control the pain you feel frequently. I will let you cling to a vain hope. You would not even know you are just taking a chance that will lead you to an abyss. She said, I have been summoned by the imperial family since I was a little girl, even His Majesty the Crown Prince knows, but it was the Emperor I healed first. Damien asked, so the reason that you are so close to His Majesty the Crown Prince is because of your powers? She replied, yes, it's because of my healing power. She stood up and said, if you show me something that needs to be addressed, I will demonstrate it right now. I can treat your heart condition in a couple of days. She came close to him and said, if you think you can believe what I'm saying, we can forget about what happened in the past and make peace. Damien said it's okay, and then he grabbed her hand and said, let's test your healing skills, right now. And then all three of them left for a secure and safe place for the treatment. But in a midway Orion saw something which reminded a very tragic memory of her. She was thinking that this hallway is the one where I died at Damien's hand. Her heartbeat increased rapidly. She was remembering the moment when her father died in past life. That there is something I could not ask when I heard about my father's death. Damien and my father were together on the battlefield, so why could not he protect my father? Back then, I did not know Damien was a man who was capable of murdering my own father. At that time Damien said, his body was barely recognizable due to the damage he received. The funeral will only hurt your feelings, so I hope you can clear your mind now. With a crying face Orion said, I'm fine, please allow me to see my father. Allow me to see him for the last time, please. However, he said, you know how I don't like to repeat things? You can't leave my mansion unless you have my permission. He came close to her and said, poor Orion, I am the only person you have left now. At the current time, Orion was thinking that, why did not I know then? But now I received a miraculous second chance. But I will never be able to trust or love anyone else again. If I can't rid myself of the anxiety he generates in me, it will become dangerous for me, so I'm going to have to deal with this somehow. Because I will never be happy living under the same sky as him. Damien opened the door and said, "Hurry up and come in here." And then suddenly Cassidy's face came into her mind. She came back to her senses and thinking that, "I miss him so much right now. I miss his smile, his warm arms. I should not have let him leave like that. I did not know until we got to this point. But if I am capable of loving someone again, it would only be with just him." So where the hell are you, Cassidy? There is only a day left before National Foundation Festival. That's all for today's video. If you want to know what happened next, then like and subscribe. Alchemy Animation YouTube channel.